caution when approaching. Further down, the A40 is completely closed in both directions for resurfacing work at halfway, with diversions in place. In Essex, all lanes on the A120 eastbound at the junction with the M11 are closed following a road traffic collision. Motorists should expect delays. And on the trains, both Avanti West Coast and London North Western Railway report major disruption between London Euston and Milton Keynes Central. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
On this day, 4 years ago, GB News was born, launching our first live broadcast on June 13th, 2021. Let's take a look back at some of our earlier memories.
If you've just switched on, a very warm welcome to you. I am Alastair Stewart, and until 3 p.m. this afternoon, I'll be keeping you company, along with friends and, I hope, friendly guests. I hope you'd agree that we've had a strong hour of debate and discussion so far, but there's lots more still to come. GB News is all about you, our viewers. Any burning questions or stories that you think we need to cover, no matter how big or small, we really do want to hear from you.
Well, we can now speak with former GB News presenter Alastair Stewart. Alastair, thank you so much for joining me. Thinking back to 4 years ago, what did you think the channel's prospects were? Did you think it would be a success?
I did. Thank you so much for having me on, and a very happy birthday to you, one of the many brilliant faces, as we call it in the trade, presenting programmes, but also to the absolutely wonderful team of technicians that you've got behind you, making sure that this all gets on air very smoothly. And we've not only hung on in there, but we've now got GB News Radio as well. Online, we're huge. We get quite good numbers on viewing, very, very good numbers on listening, well ahead some of the other competitors. I do remember when Murdoch launched Talk, there were quite a few people in the newsroom who were nervous, not because they were so good, but because Murdoch had so much more money than we did. We've seen them off. They're virtually dead in the water now, and we are thriving, celebrating 4 years of triumphal and brilliant journalism.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Very good morning to you. It's 9:30 on Friday, June 27th. Live across the UK, this is Britain's Newsroom with Ben Leo and Nana Akweer.
Good morning. Now, welfare reform rebels win. The Prime Minister is left red-faced as he agrees existing disability claimants can keep their benefit. Another U-turn.
Humiliation for the Prime Minister as he's forced into a third U-turn, and questions now over how Rachel Reeves is going to find the money to pay for it.
Elsewhere, migrant swap deal. Britain and France are negotiating a new deal to exchange channel migrants for asylum seekers in a one-in, one-out policy.
Booze prices soar. A net zero glass tax will hike the cost of bottled beer and wine across the UK. Are you happy to pay more for environmentally friendly packaging?
Prison resistance. The soon-to-be terrorist group Palestine Action tells its members to continue their fight in British jails. Will they try to radicalise inmates?
Bent it like Beckham. Victoria shares a hospital picture of David with his arm in a sling after surgery on a broken wrist, an injury he picked up 22 years ago.
We know where the music's playing. Let's go out and feel the night.
And Neil Young snubs the BBC by not allowing the broadcaster to live stream his headline Glastonbury set this weekend.
And is it ever OK to flaunt your wealth? Jeff Bezos has taken over Venice for his £20 million wedding to Lauren Sanchez. And some of the locals aren't happy. Neil Young. God, that brings me back to my university days. I was going out with a guy. He was really into Neil Young. I pretended I was into Neil Young. And it was just so dreary music. But actually, I then got into Neil Young. But I think he's right. Do you think he's right to snub the BBC?
Hang on a minute. Why did you pretend? Just to impress him?
Yeah.
Ah, that's sweet. Romantic.
Well, that went on for 5 years. It was a disaster.
Oh, OK. All right. On that bombshell. Wasn't Neil Young the one who snubbed Spotify because of Joe Rogan?
Yeah,
back in the COVID
he
era?
was, and there was another one as well.
I told
can't
he did.
remember.
I mean, it just seems like Neil Young, for all his great talents, it seems like he just likes protesting and having a row with
Well,
people.
maybe he likes to make his voice heard,
Yeah.
and he made it heard on this occasion with the BBC, which I don't blame him for.
Yeah, no, fair play, and it is the BBC. By the way, talking of Glastonbury, have you seen all the, as per usual, the high walls, the barriers, nobody's allowed in, yet inside, full of lefties who are all pro-migrants and pro-mass uncontrolled immigration? Bit ironic.
Well, it is a little bit, but it's interesting that, because I remember one year my friends went and it was the year of the mud, and it was just raining and they all got infections from the mud.
Oh dear, what a shame.
How we laughed.
Right, big 2.5 hours coming up, including this new migrant policy, apparently one in, one out. So France will take back channel migrants if we take one of their legitimate asylum seekers. I mean, I just say stop the boats completely and forget the French. But let us know what you think. gbnews.com/you're safe. First, here's your news headlines with Sophia Hill.
Very good morning. The headlines from the GB Newsroom just after 9:30. The Prime Minister has made major welfare concessions, allowing current PIP and universal credit claimants with health conditions to keep their payments, a move praised by Dame Meg Hillier as a win for Labour values. Marcus Monzo will be sentenced later today for the murder of 14-year-old Daniel Angerin during a horrific 20-minute rampage in Hainault, following convictions of an attempted murder, GBH, aggravated burglary and carrying an offensive weapon. Britain could face power blackouts lasting up to 2 weeks because the drive to net zero hasn't accounted for the country's unpredictable weather. Mental health support is going digital as patients in England will soon be able to self-refer for talking therapies under new NHS app plans from Mr Wes Streeting. And British-born fashion heavyweight Anna Wintour is stepping down as editor at Vogue after 37 years, the longest run of any other editor. Those are the latest headlines for now. More news at the top of the hour.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Hello, good morning and welcome. It's Britain's Newsroom. We're live across the United Kingdom on GB News with Ben Leo and me, Nana Acquia.
Very good morning to you. Hope you're well. Thank you for your company. So, Nana, a third U-turn from the PM.
I know. I mean, he can't stop doing it, can he?
Can't stop. Can't help
But we knew that, though, because the policies that they were coming out with were really ridiculous, and we could have told him that from the start. I just don't get why he managed to get himself in that predicament.
So we've had, just for clarity, winter fuel U-turn, rape gangs inquiry U-turn, and now today the Prime Minister's bowed down to Labour rebels as the government announces this major concessions on the welfare bill.
But again, all ridiculous ideas. I mean, Sir Keir Starmer agreed for PIP payments to continue for current claimants and for universal credit recipients with health issues. Another U-turn. What do you make of it all? I mean, what do you think?
Does it make him look weak? I mean, the answer's obvious, of course, but where does this lead? If he's getting bullied around by his backbenchers and the government is... I mean, we're not even a year in, are we? What's the date today? 27th? No, so July the 4th was the election last year. Not even 12 months in, and you have to say he's looking pretty weak.
Well, he might be being bullied by his backbenchers, as you say, but remember they all went along with it at the beginning, so they can now stand up and say, oh, we don't think so. But they were all part of the reason why it all happened, because these things wouldn't have gone through if they had objected at the time, and they didn't. So I hold them equally liable. But Catherine Forster, GB News political commentator, correspondent, sorry, darling, is here. Catherine.
Really humiliating for the Prime Minister. I was at the NATO summit with him just a couple of days ago. We asked him over and over again, were they going to make concessions, and they were holding firm. I was there when he referred to the rebels as noises off, a phrase that I don't think went down very well. And here we are, they have had to give in. So lots of disabled people will now be relieved that they're still going to get their personal independence payment. I think they will have done enough to head off a big rebellion, and they hope that the vote will be carried now. But first of all, we've got potentially a two-tier system, and there's going to be one rule for people that are already claiming, and then there's going to be a new rule for people that claim in the future. Now, that could be tricky. It's not going to come in for another year or so, those new changes. That might encourage a lot of extra people to claim now, and it's going to be expensive. You know, Rachel Reeves had that big tax-raising budget last autumn. They've said, the Prime Minister said, can I reassure your viewers the other day, they're not going to put up taxes on working people, they say, but they've created another black hole, if you like, of several £billion, and it is not clear at all how Rachel Reeves is going to find this money. And worth saying too, I think quite a lot of the anger, yes, Labour MPs worrying about losing their seats at the next election and feeling that they need to do right by disabled people. But also a feeling that the Prime Minister and Number 10 are a bit distant, are a bit disengaged, don't really talk to them, aren't in the tea rooms, don't really care what they think and haven't taken their views into consideration.
Yeah, Catherine, somebody on gbnews.com/yoursay, Maggie, good morning, Maggie, has said Starmer isn't spending long enough in the country to understand the feelings here.
Look, that has been a big criticism. He had tons of international trips last year. I've been on a lot of them. I think in the case of NATO and the G7, look, he had to be there. We've got a world, there are terrible wars going on. That was important. But I thought Kemi Badenoch, although she was attacked at PMQs yesterday for saying he was evading PMQs, she made a good point to me later in the day where she basically said he could have had PMQs on a different day, and the reason he didn't is because he doesn't want to, because he never answers any questions.
No, he doesn't.
She said anybody who's ever watched PMQs will know that he doesn't answer any questions.
I don't know
think some
why.
people sympathise with that view.
I don't see the point of it if they're asked a question they don't answer. I don't see the point of it at all. Catherine Forster, thank you very much. Right, let's speak to former Labour MP Lord Walney. Thank you for joining us. Look, this is the third U-turn. Some people might say that when you're heading in the wrong direction, it is wise to U-turn. But how did we get here in the first place? Because those things didn't go through without the support of the party as a whole.
Sure. Hi, Nana. There's a live action post-mortem going on about how the Labour Party, the Labour government has ended up in this position, and I guess that is inevitable. But I think it's important to take us back to the underlying factors here, that we are a country that has not grown fast enough for a long time, is not growing fast enough now, has been through a period where public services have been across a whole range of areas effectively hollowed out, and there are a range of domestic priorities. Added on to that, the overwhelming need for countries across the West to increase their national security and defence spending to cope with a much more volatile situation with hostile states rising and threatening us. So, I mean, let's not forget there is something of an irony, certainly a warning here, that these concessions over the welfare bill, which, look, I completely understand, having been a constituency MP, having been an advisor in the Department for Work and Pensions, I understand why people were pushing for them. But they come in this very same week that the Prime Minister has rightly signed up the country to a really significant and necessary increase in defence spending, up to, I think, 4.6% and then 5%. And all of that money has to come from somewhere, and it creates even more difficult choices down the road unless the country can start growing to levels that it has not been recently. So the Labour Party, the Labour government, has got to strap in for these choices. And if at every point in the road it ends up in this kind of very public disagreement, it's very quickly going to lose the standing that it still has with the public for being able to govern and set a direction properly.
Well, can I just say, though, the conversations about defence spending, so I think it's, what, 5% in 2035, or when he's not even going to be in office. So that people don't relate to that. They relate to what's happening here and now. And do you not think that perhaps the Labour Party appear to be losing track of the actual people in this country and what we are suffering from? And this is the criticism that Keir Starmer is never here.
Well, look, I think all of us have got to do better at being able to relate the needs to increase our national security and defence to people's lives, because we can't have a welfare system, we can't have a health service, we can't have schools if we end up in the kind of conflict which is going to destroy our economy in the way that Ukraine has been experiencing of late. And we need to fuel far more money into the far greater amounts of money into the need to fight a hot war, rather than the increase in defence spending to be able to protect what we have at the moment. And this the ramp up in defence is happening right now, and it's not simply the 5% in the 2030s. There's a commitment to I think it's 4.6.
When, sorry?
Before 2030. So that spending increase has to happen now,
but after
means
they're out of office.
That means real costs right now, and choices that need to be made about where that money needs to be found. Needs to be found. Hence these difficult conversations now.
All right.
Lord Warney, I guess the concern is, I mean, we have a go at the Tories for saying, you know, you were in power for 14 years, why didn't you sort this out there and then, you know, whatever policy, you know, take your pick, immigration, for example. Yeah. But on the flip side, Labour also had 14 years to prepare themselves for government, and it just seems like in the first 11 months that it's very reactionary. It's reacting to what's going on. It's reverse ferreting on this and that based on backbenchers or what the public is saying or what GB News is saying. You know, there doesn't seem to be much authenticity about the direction of travel.
Well, I think it is certainly the case that the Labour Party in opposition went through, I think, the darkest period in the party's history between 2015 and 2019 through the Corbyn period, and that was deeply traumatic for the Labour Party. Many good people left. I mean, obviously, I have a vested interest in saying that, but that consumed the party internally at a time when yes, I think in previous periods you could have been building up that sense of where the country needs to go. So, on the one hand, Keir Starmer's achievement in taking over in 2020 and then transforming the party into an election-winning party of government by 2024 was extraordinary. It was much better than I thought would have been possible. But yes, it has shown, I think, that some of the work that you would otherwise have wanted to have been done to actually properly set out what the programmes were going to be, to prepare the Parliamentary Labour Party for that, to make the arguments with the country, we're not done in the way that, sometimes people we're playing catch up now. Sometimes that catch up is as not being able to bring people with us, as I think has been the case you are seeing right now with the welfare reforms.
Yeah.
And they've got to be able to do better, to be able to enact the kind of change that the country is desperately crying out for.
OK, can I ask you about Palestine Action to take their resistance into prisons? Now, they will be prescribed as a terrorist organisation, which is, I think, necessary after what happened. But what are we going to do about what are the Labour Party going to do about them?
Well, I really welcome the fact that that we're going to bring forward legislation next week, which will, I think it'll be next week, which will prescribe them as a terrorist organisation, and it's really important that the government makes that case strongly and sets out the record of criminal damage, of violence that the Palestine Action has perpetrated. But it's also important that law enforcement agencies and the public, and it looks like the prison service, are are under no illusions about how organised this operation is. Now, what the Palestine Action activists and their sympathisers across the left are trying to do is trying to suggest that they are some sort of just woolly-loving, freedom-loving organisation that just throws a bit of paint around. And actually, the more you look into them, and the Telegraph and the Times have alarming reports from their internal meetings in the papers this morning, they are a deeply organised militant operation that seeks to exploit people. And yes, they will, I can imagine, pose a threat of radicalisation in prison, and they need to be treated really seriously.
Yeah, Lord Warney, who funds them? Do you know?
Yeah, well, this is a really important question, and I would like to see a proper investigation into whether there is money coming from hostile states, the likes of Iran, that is finding its way into the pockets of Palestine Action, because certainly, whether they are directly funded by Iran or another hostile state or not, they are doing the bidding of those countries. They are acting as the enemy within. I think there is also a wider question about who funds the pro-Gaza movement, and I think we need to look at. There's a lot of organisations that are sympathetic to the Gaza cause who are rallying behind Palestine Action. Some of those, one in particular, Palestine Solidarity Campaign, is strongly funded by a number of trade unions. Now, if that organisation is backing Palestine Action, that's not okay.
Lord Warney, for time reasons, we have to leave it there, but thank you so much. That is Lord.
Thanks very much, Lord Warney.
Thank you very much.
Right, up next, the lavish wedding celebrations of Jeff Bezos are underway in Venice, and we'll tell you why US President Donald Trump is giving it a miss.
But if you're in search of some holiday sun, here's the forecast of some of the top European destinations.
Ready to soak up that holiday sunshine?
Won't we need some cover?
No worries. All sorted.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations forecast.
Temperatures are likely to be 5 to 10 degrees above the average for June across parts of France and Spain. Very hot conditions persisting here. A bit of a breeze, but also temperatures above average in the Canaries, getting over 30 degrees for the next few days. Highs over 32 across Italy. Plenty of hot and sunny weather here. A few showers across mainland parts of Greece, but most of the Greek islands have turned a little bit cooler with some pleasant sunshine here and plenty more sunshine to come around the Mediterranean into next week.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations forecast.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Britain's Newsroom, weekday mornings from 9:30.
Is J.K. Rowling an extremist, radicalised TERF?
It's extraordinarily patronising to suggest that a woman who's created whole new magical worlds from her own imagination has to be radicalised by other people in order to form her own views. And that in itself I find extremely patronising. And, a man may think that women don't have our own rich inner life and form our own political views, but we do, as Nana's just demonstrated. But secondly, there's nothing radical about believing that men and women are material realities, and sometimes in law, in policy, in life, that matters. That's her position. It's a very common, in fact, it's a majority position.
James, what is a woman?
But that's Nana.
Well, I'm just wondering. Well, it's just a simple question because I'm just asking, what is a woman then? Because do you believe that a man can become a woman and a woman can become a man?
Yes, because man and woman is gendered.
So what is a woman? So what is a woman?
There is male and there is female, which is sex. This is a problem that I think a lot of you have. I'm a feminist. I believe in women's rights. I believe in women's safety. But the problem here is we are focusing on an absolute minority of people who have no, when you look at it in the round, who have no threat to women. statistically
No, that's
have
you
no
don't know
threat
that.
to
You
women
listen.
in the way
You
that,
don't. The threat to women.
Sorry, not in the way
threat
that
to
men
women.
are. This is the whole problem. Is that you saying man dressing up as a woman?
Yes.
That's despicable, Nana.
Well, it's the truth.
That is not the reality.
What else?
Do you
What
have any
is it?
trans Nana? Do you have any trans friends?
I have plenty of.
Do you mix with trans people?
I have mixed with trans people. I mix with all people.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Five hosts, 5 opinions, 5 fearless debates, 5 unfiltered takes on the day's news.
5 reasons not to be anywhere else on Saturday night.
This is the Saturday 5. You got me good there. Britain's biggest Saturday night TV show.
It's not a bad brand.
Yeah. Uncensored.
Very, very racy tonight.
On the unpredictable.
What does she say? Can you translate it for us?
And always entertaining.
And how can a country go from being led by William Wallace Saturday nights from 6 p.m. only on GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
You're going to want to stay tuned, trust me.
Right, so still to come, 1 in, 1 out. We'll tell you all about the latest migrant deal. But first, we've got a load of emails. And actually, on that very subject, Jane says, am I being very blonde? I went blonde the other year. Yes, this won't make a difference to the figures. There are millions of them here in the world. The world would have frozen over before we get rid of a fraction of the illegal migrants. What are they going to? Who are they going to send back as well? Seems a bit ridiculous, she says.
Yeah.
Yes, what she says. Close the borders, put the Navy in the Channel and tow them back to France to use the Australian method and hang the ECHR. France break it all the time. I agree with her.
We'll say hang the ECHR.
She means get rid of it kind of thing.
Oh, right.
But, look, I think you could actually have cruise ships. They come in, you put them in a cruise ship. I tell you what, after those ships are full, they won't be coming back. They won't want to do it.
Remember some years ago there was a idea from, I think it was Priti Patel, or at least the Home Office, about wave machines to create massive waves.
Good idea.
All sorts of balmy ideas.
I don't think it's balmy. I think it's quite sensible.
Well, plenty more to come this morning on Britain's Newsroom. First, though, let's get your weather. Back in a tick.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Good morning. Yes, it's time for your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. The heat is building. Going to be a pretty warm one across the south and east today, but getting hotter over the next few days. Quite a big contrast between south and north today, because across the north, quite a lot of cloud, and certainly in the northwest, northwest England, western Scotland, parts of Northern Ireland, a fairly soggy day. That rain could be quite heavy over the hills of western Scotland and Cumbria in particular. Not too much rain getting to northeastern Scotland or northeast England. Some sunshine coming through across parts of Yorkshire. Further south, it's starting grey for many, but we should see some sunshine poking through by this afternoon. That'll lift the temperatures. A warm feel across the southeast and East Anglia. The humidity is building again, but the rain persisting across the northwest through this evening. Further south, though, pretty pleasant summer's evening with temperatures holding up above 20 degrees for quite a while into the evening. Some damp weather possible at times on the west coast of Wales, but the wettest weather definitely further north. Rain on and off through the day for Northern Ireland, western Scotland. As I mentioned, some heavier bursts, the brighter colours possible there. Also quite breezy everywhere through the day today. Some fairly stiff gusts of wind across the northwest of Scotland at times, helping to encourage that rain to keep on coming. And it will pep up a little bit again overnight across the northwestern corner. Elsewhere, it should turn a little bit dry for northwest England, and only a bit of drizzle here and there across West Wales, southwest England. Many central and eastern parts staying dry. But look at the temperatures. A very warm night, a really humid start to the weekend. We'll still have that north-south divide in many senses for tomorrow. Cloud and drizzly rain, though, should be pulling away from northern Scotland, so something a bit brighter here. It'll cheer up in Northern Ireland and southern Scotland and central Scotland too, but staying a bit damp across the far north of England. For most of England and Wales, though, it'll brighten up after a cloudy, murky start with some good spells of sunshine over the Midlands and eastern England. Temperatures could get up to 30 degrees Celsius. Hotter still on Sunday.
A positive outlook through the night will power through to a bright day ahead. Boxed Home Battery Storage, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good morning. This is the latest AI travel news from GBnews.com. A road incident limits northbound lanes on the M74 between junctions 13 and 12. Resurfacing on the A40 leads to a full closure with diversions. A breakdown on the A19 slip closes one lane. Normal conditions are expected soon. In Cumbria, delays occur from a collision on the A590 westbound between the A5087 and A595. In Essex, a full lane closure on the A120 eastbound at the M11 junction is due to a collision. And on the trains, major disruptions affect Avanti West Coast and London North Western Railway services. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
£54,321 in totally tax-free cash could make your year the best yet. How would you react if you got that winning call?
Oh my God, I'm going to cry. Oh my God. Thank you.
So you weren't expecting to get that call today, were you?
No, I wasn't.
For another chance to win £54,321 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB14 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
Westminster, the ultimate clique. And you're fighting like rats in a sack. But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask. OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician. Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits. You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it. That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless. But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show. Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our viewers and listeners. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/your say. There, you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/your say, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
To all of you who voted for GB News to win at the Trick Awards for the 3rd year in a row.
So thank you so much for voting for us.
First, and hopefully there'll be a few more to come down the line.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
It's because of you that we're proud to be the People's Channel. It's because of you that we are Britain's news channel.
Good morning. It is 10 o'clock on Friday, the 27th of June, 2025. We are live across the United Kingdom. This is Britain's Newsroom with Ben Leo and me, Nana Okoya.
Very good morning to you. Thanks for your company. Welfare reform rebels win. The Prime Minister is left red-faced as he agrees existing disability claimants can keep their benefits. Another U-turn.
A migrant swap. Britain and France are negotiating a new deal to exchange channel migrants for asylum seekers in a one-in, one-out policy.
Well, it sounds potentially good, but the truth, of course, is always in the detail here about how well this will work and whether it is one in, one out.
Prison resistance. The soon-to-be terrorist group Palestine Action tells its members to continue their fight in British jails. Will they try to radicalise inmates?
And bent it like Beckham. Victoria shares a hospital picture of Sir David with his arm in a sling after surgery on a broken wrist.
We know where the music's playing. Let's go out and feel the night.
The dulcet tones of Neil Young there, who has snubbed the BBC and won't allow the broadcaster to live stream his headline Glastonbury set this weekend.
Is it ever OK to flaunt your wealth? Jeff Bezos has taken over Venice for his £20 million wedding to Lauren Sanchez, and some of the locals aren't happy.
So, one in, one out. So we basically send France their channel migrants back, one of them, and in return we get a legitimate asylum seeker. We need to process their claims, I believe.
Well, what we should do then, that would mean that we could turn back the boat. So if they come via the boat, you turn them back, and then we can take one of them. Is that because all that's happened is they've left France to come here. We're then taking on people anyway. It doesn't make any sense.
I think the whole idea is nonsensical.
Ridiculous.
We shouldn't be having the discussion in the first place. Turn the boats back. No deals, no pacts, no equations or arithmetic. We'll take one of them, you send 5 over, we'll send you £500 million. No, just turn the boats back. Stop it.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And of course, I would say have the cruise ships in the...
You love that cruise ship idea.
No, because I think that's a perfectly reasonable idea. You don't get to the UK. You get on a cruise ship, we'll process you there. People will live on the cruise ship for over a year.
I know, but it depends how luxury is the cruise ship going to be? Saunas and buffets?
Well,
I mean, that's just another attraction.
Well, it's just even more... If we look at the hotels, though, they're quite luxurious. So, no, I don't think it will be so luxurious. If they realise that they don't get to be on British shores, then they may stop coming. I think that would work.
All right, well, GB News Home and Security Editor Mark White is with us imminently to discuss this proposed new deal. I'm sure he can make sense of it if we can't. For now, though, let's get your news headlines with Sophia Hill.
Ben, thank you. Very good morning. It's just gone 10 o'clock. These are your latest headlines. The top story, the Prime Minister has bowed to pressure from Labour rebels with major concessions announced on welfare reform. Current recipients of PIP and universal credit with health conditions will now keep their payments, a move described by Dame Meg Hillier as a win for Labour values.
The government's been really listening to Labour MPs and is going to protect people who are currently in receipt of personal independent payments so that it won't decrease. And also people who receive the health element of universal credit, that will also be protected. So, you know, in line with Labour values, it's about protecting the most vulnerable. But I would say all of us want to see people in work who can be in work and want to work. And we're very committed to this bill, which promotes movement into work. But these changes are really critical to protecting the most vulnerable.
Work and Pension Secretary Liz Kendall confirmed the changes in a letter to MPs following days of crisis talks. A crunch vote on the bill takes place on Tuesday, with the change costing the Treasury £1.5 billion a year until the end of the decade, and placing pressure on the Chancellor ahead of the autumn budget. In a major shift, France has agreed to take back some channel migrants under a new one-in, one-out pilot scheme with the UK. Under the new plan, for every illegal migrant arriving in Britain, one will be returned to France within weeks. It's the first deal of its kind aimed at stopping repeat crossings and hitting people smuggling gangs. The Home Secretary is expected to unveil the policy next week, ahead of President Macron's state visit to London. GB News spoke to Shadow Paymaster General Richard Holden earlier to hear his doubts.
It's going to actually increase the number of people crossing the Channel, and it's going to be sort of weird merry-go-round in the middle of the English Channel as we have people coming on one side and then shifting them back just for others to come on the reverse again. It's completely ridiculous. What we should have is a proper deterrent, like we had with the Rwanda scheme, which said if you come here illegally, you do not get to stay in the UK.
No time for fear. That's how Inspector Malloy Campbell described the moment he ran towards a sword-wielding attacker in a desperate bid to save lives. Marcus Monzo will be sentenced later today for the murder of 14-year-old Daniel Andren during a horrific 20-minute rampage in Hainault in East London. The dual Spanish-Brazilian national has been convicted also of attempted murder, GBH, aggravated burglary and carrying an offensive weapon. Inspector Campbell praised the reaction time of the police.
And so, yeah, it was just a case of doing what I thought needed to be done. It was a decision. Do we contain the defendant or do we confront? And that was a decision that needed to be made quickly. And obviously the decision was to confront, because I felt that had we done anything else, then more members of the public and potentially police officers would have been seriously injured or worse.
Britain could face power blackouts lasting up to 2 weeks because the drive to net zero hasn't accounted for the country's unpredictable weather. That's the warning from energy experts who say long spells of calm could leave wind turbines useless. A major new study says the UK's system just isn't ready and needs urgent backup plans to avoid the lights going out. Mental health support is going digital. Patients in England will soon be able to self-refer for talking therapies through the NHS app, under new plans from Health Secretary Wes Streeting. He says it's about putting the digital front doors on services people rely on. The move comes as rates of anxiety and depression continue to rise, as the government confirms 85 new mental health A&E departments will be built across the country. And Anna Wintour is stepping down as editor of Vogue after almost 4 decades at the helm. The British-born fashion heavyweight is leaving her role that she has held for 37 years. That's longer than any other editor, but she said she will keep a senior position at its publisher. The 75-year-old's credited with transforming the magazine since 1988, championing celebrity covers and reinventing the Met Gala. Wintour's replacement has yet to be announced. Those are the latest GB News headlines for now. More from me in just under half an hour, but now it's back to Nana and Ben.
Hello, good morning to you. Welcome to Britain's Newsroom on GB News with Ben Leo and Nana Akua. And thank you for your emails and messages so far.
Yeah.
A couple to read out. Darren, on the Prime Minister, you've said, Darren, he should change the name of PMQs to PM Questions and Answers. He may then understand he needs to answer the questions. Peter, you've said, if we send the Palestine action prisoners to Gaza, they can radicalise any amount they want.
Okay.
Good points.
Kay says, I've heard it all now. Two-tier, Keir, never Keir, has really stopped me in my tracks with this one. We take one asylum seeker and give the French an illegal. I think Keir needs a mental health checkup. He clearly has lost it big time. That's what she says. But it does... Look, but let's shed some light on it with Mark White, our Home and Security editor. So,
good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. Good morning, Mark White. So can you explain this one in, one out?
Well, I'll try, but the fact is it's not been approved yet as a deal as far as we know, but the suggestion is that those coming across in small boats would be returned within a few weeks. Exactly how many will be returned would be the issue here. I think for it to be an effective deterrent, it needs to be 100% of those that are coming across the channel by small boat immediately get returned, and not within a few weeks, within a day or two of arriving. And, of course, the quid pro quo for this is that the UK would then have to accept asylum seekers from a sort of central hub in Paris, not those who are coming across by small boats, they wouldn't qualify, but others who have applied for asylum in Paris, for instance, who have relatives, we're told, in the UK, would be part of this quota that we would take. Maybe it's 20, maybe it's 30,000 a year that it's capped at. So it would be effectively a one in and a one out.
The small boat will come all the way to the UK, where we will then process them slowly and then send it. How about the small boat goes half, about to come to the UK, gets turned back, and they can then give us the equivalent in people who are appealing for asylum, because that would stop it in its tracks. If the boat was actually sent back, so we pick them up on our normal, the RNLI, or whoever picks them up, and instead of turning that boat round, we just carry on back to France, pop the people back there, and then the French can give us back the equivalent. Wouldn't that be better?
Well, it might be better, yes, and you never know, it might evolve as a process, but for now, I can't see it, because clearly there are issues at play in terms of they want to get those who have been picked up over here to determine whether there will be, apparently, we're told, perhaps a very few exceptions that might qualify for immediate asylum here. So these things are never straightforward.
But then they still end up in the processing. We need to eradicate the processing. So if you send the boat back because they're on the boat and that's not how you're meant to get here, then they can go and then we can have the equivalent of people who've accepted. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because otherwise we're just creating an asylum backlog again, and that just seems a bit ridiculous.
Or the French just don't let them away from the beaches in the first place.
Well, or
the French stop them before they even get anywhere near UK. Well, there's lots of great things we could do, but we are faced with the reality of a deal that they seem to be hatching, which the process would be one in, one out. Would it really be one in, one out, though? Because the suggestion I'm hearing is it might be about 40% of those coming, maybe even less, of those coming across would then be returned. If that was the case, I can't see this being any kind of a deterrent. You've got to have 100% of those coming across, knowing that if they come across, they're going to get returned. Then that does potentially disrupt and destroy the business model of sending them across in small boats. Now, that doesn't, they may get wise to the best way to do it is to go to Paris and register that way and hope to get to the UK on another route. I don't know, but it's something at least that seems to be, I would suggest, a bit of a step forward from where we are at the moment, but only if Sir Keir Starmer can secure 100% of those coming across are returned. If that doesn't happen, I just think it's really not going to make that much of a difference at the end of the day.
Well, we just saw the images on screen there of the boats. I mean, so many women and children, Mark. I mean, it's a good thing we're saving all those women and children.
What was he saying?
Can you remind our viewers, please, of the numbers so far this year, hard numbers year to date, and then how much that's up on last year?
Well, I hate to do this to our poor audience, but it's 18,500, which is 43% up on the same period last year. We've had a few days of kind of, even though it's been glorious kind of weather-wise for us, for the most part, bit of thunder, they've had a bit of wind in the channel, so that really does affect the number of boats coming across.
Just before I let you go, I've messaged you privately before on weekends and said, Mark, it's a beautiful weekend, the sun is out, the sea looks all right. Any boats leaving today? And you've said no, not necessarily. So it doesn't depend on the weather, does it?
It's the sea state, basically. So if you've had 1 or 2 days of the winds being sort of over 18, 20 miles an hour, or the equivalent in knots, then that whips up the waves in the channel. These are flimsy boats at the end of the day that really don't have powerful engines to get across there, can get inundated with water very quickly, so end up getting into trouble. So you need flat calm pretty much. So even if the wind stops and the wind is now down to just 5 miles an hour, it takes a good half a day or more for actually the sea state to calm down, for then the boats to be able to come across. I'm told, should you be interested, that Sunday into Monday will be very, very busy.
You see,
the channel.
That's just ridiculous.
The weather is going to be perfect. The wind dies down on Saturday night through into Sunday, and then it's going to be flat calm for a good day or two or more. Actually, the beginning of July is going to be very, very ideal conditions for. So we can see we're going to very quickly get up to 20, 25,000 crossing the channel within the month.
That's crazy. I wonder if the Prime Minister wakes up each morning googling sea state in the channel.
No, he doesn't. He's not even bothered
wind
about
strength.
That. He's too busy in his plane going somewhere else.
It sounds flippant, but that is the biggest deterrent. For small boats is the weather,
Shame the channel isn't akin to the Bay of Biscay or something, but Mark White.
Oh, shame the wave machine idea was turned away. Mark White, thank you very much. What's wrong with that? It's just people won't even set up on the boat.
It was a Priti Patel, as far as I remember, correct me if I'm wrong, apologies Priti, but I think it was a Priti Patel idea that was mooted, or a Home Office idea some years ago.
Well, I think it's a good idea if it means that people won't get in the water in the first place.
Yeah. Right, let's move on. Let's go stateside, shall we, where President Donald Trump has rejected an invitation to Amazon founder Jeff Bezos' Venetian wedding.
Well, we're now joined by journalist Chapman Bell. So what happened to your invite?
I must have gotten lost in the post, I guess, Clearly I was not on the list of, around 200 of who's who in the world of sport and entertainment and business. It really is an incredible list of people attending. We've seen, Leonardo DiCaprio arriving, Oprah arriving, but one absence that's being reported is that of Donald Trump. Now, apparently, he was extended an invitation, but declined due to conflicts in the schedule. And I think most people would agree there's a lot going on right now that might get in the way of a president attending such a lavish wedding. We've got Iran going on domestically. He still has his big, beautiful bill trying to get it across the line. And, but it's not without a Trump representation. Ivanka Trump has been seen there with her husband, Jared Kushner, and their family. There are reports that Donald Trump Jr. is going to be going. But I think
just as well Keir Starmer didn't get an invite, otherwise he'd be off there as well, wouldn't it?
You know, but I think
you know, it's a freebie.
Not that it's ever stopped him, but maybe optics get in the way.
Trotter as well, isn't it?
Yeah, lots of guests. The Kardashians, Oprah Winfrey is there, Ivanka Trump. I'm just seeing if there's any UK guests. Tom Brady, the NFL player. Usher, the pop star. Doesn't seem to be too many UK guests. Oh, Bill Gates is there. That's good. If there's any globalists watching, then Bill Gates is there. So what does this mean really for Bezos? Is there anything to take from the fact he's chosen Venice and Europe for this big wedding?
Well, I mean, it's not come without controversy. You know, there's been loads of protests there. I mean, I think, you know, Venice, it was the choice for George and Amal Clooney as well. It's a beautiful location. I mean,
Nana Acquia as well.
Well, Stephen proposed to me in Venice. It's lovely. Just near, wasn't quite near that bridge, but it was in our beautiful palace that he rented.
So I think everybody can agree that it's a wonderful setting, a wonderful location. But, you know, one of the things that reports have been getting into is this was an attempt by Bezos to try to cozy up to Donald Trump and maybe fill that void left by Elon Musk and his big backlash.
What's their relationship like, Bezos and Trump?
Well, they've had a rocky relationship. Apparently, there have been reports they have spoken in the last couple of weeks. You know, there were issues several years ago after he purchased the Washington Post that, you know, they did butt heads occasionally with the newspaper. But, you know, the fact is he has a rival space company and, you know, Donald Trump has publicly said maybe they should withdraw some of Elon Musk's government contracts. So maybe they see this as an attempt to get some lucrative government contracts with helping people get into space.
Well, you know, the wedding kind of... there's some footage that the Daily Mail obtained with Lauren, who appeared to be in high spirits, it says, despite the rain ending their soirée early. And I can tell you now that when we went to Venice, it was lovely, but the rain, it got in my shoes, and my knees went weird because of the damp. It's a lovely idea, but it's just so wet there.
Well, I mean, you know, a budget can go so far, right? You can controlling the weather, and I think there have been venue changes, apparently, last-minute venue changes as well. But I think, you know, the show must go on, as they say. And I think with that many people there, you'll want it to continue.
All right. Chapman Bell, thank you very much. Really good
Thanks,
to talk to you.
Appreciate that. Right, you too could be on your way to Venice if you chose, or maybe even, I don't know, Bognor Regis, I'd probably prefer. Or some
I'd probably prefer that as
British
well.
seaside town. The Great British Giveaway is your chance to win £54,321. It's our biggest cash prize to date, and it's tax-free, of course. Here's Hayley Sparks, who, by the way, I met for the first time at the Trick Awards on Tuesday. Did you meet Hayley?
No.
Oh, nice girl. Really nice. Very talented. Here she is with all the details.
This is your chance to enjoy luxury this summer. It's our biggest cash prize to date, an incredible £54,321 in tax-free cash has to be won. What would you do with that? With all of that cash, you could just chill out, treat yourself and indulge in the finer things in life, somewhere like here, Downhall Hotel and Spa. You really could win the cash giveaway of the summer. Go on, treat yourself.
For another chance to win £54,321 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB14 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Good luck indeed. Up next, the NHS has been hit by a mental health crisis. Find out how this impacts the care you receive.
You're with Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power?
Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber.
Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics.
We'll see where this ruling takes us.
These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Good
Afternoon Britain. Weekdays from midday.
Where Anna Riley, our intrepid reporter, is doing the toughest job in television right now, which is enjoying the sunshine. Anna.
Yes, Tom, it's definitely a tough gig for me today, I'll tell you. I'm on the Bridlington Fun Park ride here. This is the zero gravity ride. This fun park is, off we go. This fun park is right next to the sea. Oh, it goes quite quickly, I'll tell you. And people are out enjoying, enjoying rides like this one. Off we go. It's a great boost for tourism, and we've been speaking to people here in Bridlington about what's so great about the sunshine. Let's have a listen.
We're on holiday. We've been here since last Friday, so we can't complain. It's been beautiful, and we're here till Monday, so we're really looking forward to the hot weather. As you can see, the sunbird.
It's lovely. It really is very nice. It's absolutely gorgeous. We deserve it, definitely.
It's good. We like the warm weather.
Yes, very nice. Loving it. Yes, like
the warm enough.
Weather. Woo! Well, this ride is showing no signs of stopping, and neither is the sunshine. We're getting that heat wave at the weekend. Enjoy the weather and enjoy fun rides like this one. Get to Bridlington and get to the fun park. Oh my gosh!
Absolute bravo, Anna Riley. What an incredible piece of television. I hope they let you off at some point.
I thought they'd only do it once or twice. Bless her.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions, but every Friday night at 9 p.m. you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good morning, 23 minutes after 10 o'clock. This is Britain's Newsroom with Ben Leo and me, Nana Aquir. And joining us, Dr Renee Hundekamp and also James Schneider in the studio.
Good morning.
Good morning. I want to start with this story about 1/5 of Britons are suffering from a mental health condition. That can't be right, surely.
Well, I think what's happened is we're now in an age of diagnosis where we have talked about mental health so much that the parameters for diagnosing a mental health condition have broadened so massively that everything. I get patients who have had a breakup with their girlfriend who want an antidepressant, who are going through a rough time at work. The list now of mental health conditions is massive. I view mental health conditions as schizophrenia, bipolar, serious mental health conditions that do absolutely ruin lives. I know this. I have someone in my family who has been blighted by schizophrenia, and I have seen that life ruined. But I'm afraid we need a little bit more resilience now. And yes, we will all feel sad. We will all feel desperate when things don't go right in life. That is normal. That is coping. And if you consider that in the under 35s claiming benefits for this, 70% of them do so on the basis of a mental health disorder. This has to change.
I blame Meghan Markle. She started this all off.
Meghan?
Yes!
What,
No.
she made the country sick? Sorry,
I blame her because she, when
I don't follow her work very
closely. When Piers Morgan walked off on
Good
Morning Britain, he felt that he didn't believe that she had any issues, or he felt that she was, sort of taking advantage of it. And I do believe that a lot of people do use
need
that.
to man up, James.
Do you think, or am I being totally unfair, totally wrong?
I think life is getting harder for most
everyone.
people in the country, and that's obviously going to affect people's mental health. That's something that's going to happen. And I think the response to that, rather than saying people should man up, should be sort of in the line of what Renee was saying, is we should really help people with very acute issues, and we should find other ways to help people so that when they are sad, they can deal with that objectively rather than it falling into depression. And depression is really the inability to look in the face something that is objectively bad. And then we have to improve people's material conditions. We need to make life more affordable for more people, give people more time and less stress, and then we will have a happier country, fewer people with mental health, fewer people off sick, and so on and so forth.
Do you know, the irony of this, though, is I think you're completely wrong. I mean, when I was 21 and had a mortgage that went to 15%, and I had a child whose school fees I had to pay, nursery fees, and the au pair that had to look after him in order that I could work to pay them, I didn't have enough money for food for me. So I lived on, and this is not a lie, apples and yoghurt for a year. I've told this story often. Because that was my way of coping with a terrible situation at the time. And I got through it. I didn't give up work. I didn't go and ask someone for help. I just did it. I didn't even tell my mum. She'll be sitting screaming at the TV saying, why didn't you ask me for help? And because I was taught by her that you can always cope. And that's what we're missing, I'm afraid. I don't think, you know, I think times are very hard at the moment. But I think if you go back to even my mum's generation, where they had newspaper on the floor, not carpet, they went to school every day with clean clothes, even though they didn't have a bean. They had food on the table, even though it was bread and dripping every night. People coped. We have lost that ability to cope.
Do you think Renee's right? I mean, do you think some of these are kind of, a lot of the young people in particular, there's a large proportion of them claiming benefits are really snowflakes?
I wouldn't say that they're snowflakes. I do think that we have a big problem with lots of young people who are facing mental health difficulties. Like, all of the research shows that. One of the problems are these things. And people being, you know, before people's brains, children's brains have been properly formed, that they become basically addicted to social media and so on and so forth. There are very clear, real things that are happening to people in our society that we should alter society for, so that people can lead better lives. One of those things, I agree, would be, how do you help young people learn resilience? How do you teach young people to learn to respect themselves and rely on themselves, and also respect themselves in a way that they can rely on other people? There's a whole series of things saying, like, oh, they're just snowflakes, there's nothing wrong. That's obviously not right.
I didn't say there's nothing wrong.
I know.
There is a lot wrong with being a snowflake.
My point is, right, there are real reasons why, and we can discuss, you know, the boundary definition and so on. That's a legitimate discussion, but there are real reasons why more people are having a worse time, and we should do things about that. Some of that is material, some of that is...
No, but
yes.
I really do think that Renee's spot on with it, because I think a lot of the young people these days haven't learnt the resilience, and I guess maybe the phones have got something to do with it, but throughout the ages, technology has always been evolving. So before the mobile phone, there was the phone. Before that, there was a
Of course,
TV.
but there is
before that, there was a...
So there's of course, you're right, and normally...
People adapt to the new technologies.
and normally, with most of these things, I would agree with you, and 20 years ago there were people saying, you know, kids these days, and 40 years ago there were people saying kids these days and so on. But there is a difference, which is, if you look at basic numeracy and literacy for teenagers, they have been going up every single year on record until about 2012. And then it started coming down, and then it started coming down faster during the pandemic. And you look at what has changed for children since then, and being on this all of the time when your brains are not developed is a very big issue.
I work with people to stop these being given to kids. My daughter will not have one of those till she's 18. I don't care what anyone says. The evidence is very clear. It is changing brains in a way that is not positive. And we don't let children drink or smoke because we know it harms them. We know this harms them too, but we carry on because the tech companies are more important to our government than stopping this.
Can we squeeze in one more story? Which one? We've got the Ed Miliband one, but you want to do the...
Let's do yours. Ed Miliband, James. His net zero department sent a health and safety inspector on a lavish 10,000-mile round trip to check the hotels were up to scratch. The Sun, page 7. I thought flying was bad.
Well, I think flying to an international conference to try to deal with climate breakdown is probably fine, but that's not what this is. This is an advanced party civil servant to check on the location of the conference, which they don't decide where it is. It's kind of in the middle of nowhere. I think the question would be, why couldn't someone from the embassy there go rather than someone from the department? But, you know, I don't have any details.
Because it's do as I say, not as I do. That's
It's supposed to be eco. So if you're eco, you'll make a phone call. Perhaps you could have somebody could show you the room using a little film or footage or a camera or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, you
don't need this. Or you could actually find the hotel, like most people, on the internet and get your people to look at it through there.
Well, for any government conference, there will be advanced parties, there will be people doing security checks, there will, all of that stuff is necessary and will happen.
I suspect COP will have massive security of their own and everything will have been checked out. However, being in government is actually just part of a gravy train, and these lavish trips abroad are part of the perks.
OK, you'll be back with us very shortly in the next hour, including a story on Britain's youngest council leader in charge of a £500 million budget. He's 18 years old. Is that a good thing? We'll discuss that very shortly. First, let's get your 60-second news update with Sophia Hill.
Very good morning. These are the headlines just after 10:30. The Prime Minister has made major welfare concessions, allowing current PIP and universal credit claimants with health conditions to keep their payments, a move praised by Dame Meg Hillier as a win for Labour values. Marcus Monzo will be sentenced later today for the murder of the 14-year-old Daniel Andren during a horrific 20-minute rampage in Hainault, following convictions of attempted murder, GBH, aggravated burglary and carrying an offensive weapon. A major search is underway for missing 13-year-old Milo Capilla after he's feared to have vanished near the River Tees in Ingleby, Barwick. Mental health support is going digital, as patients in England will soon be able to self-refer for talking therapies through the NHS app under Wes Streeting's new plans. And British-born fashion mogul Anna Wintour is stepping down as editor of Vogue after 37 years, the longest run of any other editor. Those are the latest headlines for now. More news at the top of the hour.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Up next, is it ever okay to flaunt your wealth? As that's what Amazon founder Jeff Bezos is doing in Venice with his £20 million wedding celebration.
It's right there, doesn't it?
I was proposed in Venice.
Oh, lucky you.
It's nice, but it's a bit wet.
Goes without saying, eh? Right, back in a sec. This is Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
Good morning. Yes, it's time for your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. The heat is building. Going to be a pretty warm one across the south and east today, but getting hotter over the next few days. Quite a big contrast between south and north today, because across the north, quite a lot of cloud, and certainly in the northwest, northwest England, western Scotland, parts of Northern Ireland, a fairly soggy day. That rain could be quite heavy over the hills of western Scotland and Cumbria in particular. Not too much rain getting to northeastern Scotland or northeast England. Some sunshine coming through across parts of Yorkshire. Further south, it's starting grey for many, but we should see some sunshine poking through by this afternoon. That'll lift the temperatures. A warm feel across the southeast and East Anglia. The humidity is building again, but the rain persisting across the northwest through this evening. Further south, though, pretty pleasant summer's evening with temperatures holding up above 20 degrees for quite a while into the evening. Some damp weather possible at times on the west coast of Wales, but the wettest weather definitely further north. Rain on and off through the day for Northern Ireland, western Scotland. As I mentioned, some heavier bursts, the brighter colours possible there. Also quite breezy everywhere through the day today. Some fairly stiff gusts of wind across the northwest of Scotland at times, helping to encourage that rain to keep on coming. And it will pep up a little bit again overnight across the northwestern corner. Elsewhere, it should turn a little bit dry for northwest England, and only a bit of drizzle here and there across West Wales, southwest England. Many central and eastern parts staying dry. But look at the temperatures. A very warm night, a really humid start to the weekend. We'll still have that north-south divide in many senses for tomorrow. Cloud and drizzly rain, though, should be pulling away from northern Scotland, so something a bit brighter here. It'll cheer up in Northern Ireland and southern Scotland and central Scotland too, but staying a bit damp across the far north of England. For most of England and Wales, though, it'll brighten up after a cloudy, murky start with some good spells of sunshine over the Midlands and eastern England. Temperatures could get up to 30 degrees Celsius. Hotter still on Sunday.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good morning. This is the latest AI travel news from gbnews.com.
Motorists travelling northbound on the M74 should be cautious due to a road traffic incident between junctions 13 and 12. The A40 is closed for resurfacing work with diversions in place. A broken-down vehicle on the A19 northbound entry slip from the A1027 in Stockton-on-Tees has closed one lane. In Essex, a collision on the A120 eastbound at the M11 junction has closed all lanes. Proceed with caution in affected areas. And on the trains, there's major disruption between London Euston and Milton Keynes Central on the Avanti West Coast and London North Western Railways. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Welcome back to Britain's Newsroom, 10:36. You're with Ben and Nana on GB News.
Right, so obviously megastars, Elton John, Lady Gaga, they're all set to lead an array of performances for Jeff Bezos and Lauren Sanchez's wedding in Venice.
Oh gosh, how I'd love to be there. The couple are believed to have spent £14.5 million on their wedding. But the big question today is it wrong to flaunt your wealth in the fashion of Jeff Bezos and Lauren Sanchez?
What's the point of it if you can't flaunt it? We're joined by journalist and broadcaster Julie Cook and founder of Pimlico Plumbers, Charlie Mullins. Right, well, we'll start with you, Julie, because you're there. We can see you're not sure where Charlie's gone, but hopefully he will be joining us.
Flaunting his wealth.
Possibly. What do you think, Julie? Is it OK for Jeff Bezos to be showing off his wealth?
No, I don't think it is. I think it's vulgar. I think it's tacky. And I think it's tone deaf. I think, you know, the way the world is at the moment with so many people in dire straits financially, so much cost of living crisis around the world, even in the West, we're all suffering. I think it's particularly tone deaf. On another note, I actually used to live in Venice for 7 years, where I met my husband and had my son. And so I know what it's like to live there as a local. And believe me, the local people are not well off. They live in, you know, there's a lot of social housing for the people that we knew there. There's a lot of poverty, the true Venetians. And they will be really annoyed about this.
But isn't him going there, spending his money, enriching and adding wealth to the area? Because that's how most people... It's a big tourist industry there. He's brought a lot of attention to it. And there'll be other people thinking, oh, Venice, Venice. So this is surely a good thing for Venice, because Venice is ultimately pretty much just a tourist destination, isn't it, really? Julie? What's Julie gone?
Anyone there? Charlie there? Julie, are you there? Have they gone to Venice? Oh, they're coming, we're told. Maybe they're on the way to Gatwick to Venice. My situation, I know lots of people who have got 9... Hello, can you hear us, Charlie?
Is that Charlie?
Yes, yeah.
Charlie, doesn't it irk you a bit when people say you're flaunting your wealth when actually you started off on very humble beginnings? You worked very, very hard. Surely you've got to a place where you can now enjoy yourself. Why shouldn't you?
Oh, I think we're having some trouble with this discussion.
I wanted to hear what they had to say.
Yeah,
we can hear you now, Charlie. Go on.
Yeah, look, I think this journalist is wrong. I think many people are wrong saying don't show your wealth off. I mean, there's different places to do it, different times to do it, but it inspires people. It wants people to better their life and get what you've got. I mean, the fact that she said, yes, the country's in a bad way, but, you know, we can't keep giving out a negative message about, you know, don't go to work and don't improve yourself and don't let anybody see you got a new car. You know, that's probably one of the reasons we're in the problem at the moment. We should be out there and getting behind people that are prepared to work hard and get people into work and get better things. I mean, all this jealousy and hatred that's going out there, it's doing nobody any good. We should all be inspiring to better ourselves. We ain't rubbing it in people's nose, but why would you be ashamed of working hard, earning lots of money and putting it back into the economy?
Yeah, Charlie, I think, look, I don't agree with this thesis, but I think their argument comes from the assumption that there's a finite number of resources, that there's only so much money, there's only so much success to be doled out. And these kind of people who complain about seeing people, I don't know, with nice cars or nice watches or whatever, I think they think that by you enjoying that, and I know you've got a nice car, Charlie, I've seen it in and around London now and then with your nice number plate.
No, he's moved from London, he doesn't live in London anymore.
I've seen it whenever you're here, I know, whatever, you had the car. They think that because you're enjoying a wealthy and abundant life, somebody else has to pay for that, i.e. somebody else is going to be in shortage. Why is that wrong?
Because it is wrong.
What they're thinking is wrong. I mean, you know, if you've earned it and you're spending it, no one else is paying for it. If anything, I say you're helping the economy, you're inspiring people. I mean, look, we all know the green-eyed monsters out there, and a lot of this is about exactly about that. You've only got to look at my social media and see the amount of nonsense I get on there because you've got a good car or you're at a nice event or you're, you know, at a charity event. You know, we all put money in charity. The more better we do. So all this nonsense about don't show off that you've done well in life, I think it's absolutely old-fashioned and it's out of date. And if anything, it's demoralising the country.
Well, listen, Julie, do you think it's... Charlie's right. I mean, there's also, you mentioned earlier, just jealousy. Why would you think it's negative for somebody who's wealthy to spend his wealth, in particular that he is also a wealth creator? And as I know with Charlie, he often gives lots and lots of money to charity. He's always there at the auctions giving money away for causes. Julie?
Yeah, I can completely agree with quite a lot of what...
Well, that's kind of flaunting wealth, isn't it? Giving your money
I
away
agree
to
with
charity.
what Charlie's just... Oh, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Oh, hello. Sorry, I disappeared then. Yeah, I completely agree with what Charlie said about that. You know, that there's a lot of giving back, and that's fantastic. But I just think that when you are that wealthy as Jeff Bezos, this isn't just sort of someone who's done well in life. This is oligarch level wealth. This is huge wealth. This is the kind of wealth most of us could never even dream of achieving. So I think that isn't aspirational. That's kind of just, it's a ridiculous amount of wealth to spend on a wedding.
Yeah, but he's earned it. Like, he can do whatever he likes. As a proportion of his income, it's probably the same proportion that you might spend on a wedding. Do you see what I mean? If we look at it as proportionately rather than the exact amount, it suddenly becomes what you would expect somebody with that kind of wealth to spend.
Potentially, but then, you know, he doesn't have to. I think I disagree with what our other person said in that he's not rubbing it in people's faces. I think this is rubbing it in people's faces. This is about as high profile as you can possibly be. You're taking over an entire small city, grinding it to a halt for your wedding, inviting the world's, you know, great and the good and everybody on every front page at your wedding, some of who you probably don't even know personally. You know, if he was that wealthy and he wanted just a wedding, he could have hired an island or bought an island and done it very privately and discreetly.
So you don't think buying an island's flaunting your wealth, Charlie?
Yeah, well, look, again, I'm going to disagree with this lady. It's his money. He's putting a lot into the economy. A lot of people are going to benefit from it. And again, I think people aspire to it. You know, I would never have been successful if I didn't copy the plumber years ago when I used to bunk off school. He had a car, motorbike, jewellery, nice home, money, holidays. So it inspires people. And when we have the Prince's Trust come round, and the first question the youngsters ask, do you really drive a Rolls Royce? Or do you really earn £1 million? This was years ago, obviously. And, you know, it inspires them. So I think we've got the wrong attitude. I mean, we should be more like America and get behind people and, you know, create wealth and spend wealth and show people what you can do by working hard and going to work. That's my views and many of the people. And look, I mean, we're driving billionaires away. I mean, I'm at a programme at the weekend, Best Wealth is being done by Alfie Best, the billionaire, and he's encouraging people by his wealth to do well in life. And the place is sold out, it's packed out. So how can it be wrong? Unfortunately,
Julie, 60% of the taxes we take is from wealth creators, people the top tiny 1%. Surely it's good, Julie. Just quickly respond to Charlie.
It's great that they paid their due. I'm not saying they shouldn't do that at all. In fact, I think that's fantastic. I'm just saying that the lavishness of this particular wedding, I'm not saying you shouldn't drive a Rolls Royce if you've worked for it. The lavishness of this particular wedding, which is it's huge, it's on a massive scale, I think is a bit vulgar.
Well, listen, if I was marrying Jeff Bezos, I wouldn't expect anything less.
So I wish it was me there, anyhow.
Well, thank you so much. Really good to see you, Charlie, and also Julie Cook. Thank you so much. Great. You see, now if I were marrying Jeff Bezos, I would expect that level of treatment, that level of wealth. People work proportionately with what they have.
Really?
And I think
you'd expect it?
Yeah, absolutely. If I was with somebody like that who's a multi-billionaire, 20 million to him isn't actually that much.
Yeah, I mean, I know some people who have got 7, 8, 9, 10-figure net worths, and they look like they're homeless. They go around on bikes. They don't like to flaunt their money.
It was like me and my C1. when I used to drive my Citroen C1, I looked like the tramp lady. I had, you know, I wasn't wearing my wig. The C1, it was like a cesspit. It was like a bin because I'd had it for 15 years. It did 200,000 miles. It only carked on me before I bought my new car. But I didn't flaunt the fact that I was on TV or anything. But I don't object to other people doing whatever they do.
No, I don't really object to it either. I think there is probably... It's a style question. How do you do it? Are you doing it in a way where you're trying to rub it in people's noses? Are you doing it in a way that you're just enjoying yourself and you're making the most of your abundance? I think that's OK. But I think if it's the former where you're just being... There's a sort of level of classiness to it as well, which some people can kind of get wrong.
But I don't think that this is classless, I think, and also mentioning the friends that he's bringing with him. Well, when you're at that level, Elton John and Oprah Winfrey are your friends. Those are the people that you'll end up mingling with because you're like attracts like.
Well, I think like Meghan Markle's wedding, she didn't know 80% of all the celebs who had gone to their wedding.
Yeah, but that was
they just
royal.
do it for the sake of it.
Yeah, but that was royal. That's
I don't think Jeff
wealth.
Bezos probably knows half his guest list.
Well, maybe he does, maybe he doesn't, but that's flaunting. What about the royal wedding then?
I mean, it's just fake, isn't it? It's
well, what about royal weddings then? Is that flaunting wealth?
Well, is it flaunting wealth?
Well, I mean, you know, they've got everything going. Is that allowed? Is that flaunting wealth? Is that... The country literally stops?
My point is, I don't care about flaunting wealth. I'm talking about the authenticity of it. Like, do you know these guests? Are you just getting these big islands and parties because you're shallow and materialistic, or are you doing it because you actually enjoy it?
Well, I don't know. Listen, if I've got money, I'll do exactly what I want, and I don't blame them at all. But moving on, if you are in search of some holiday sun, here is the forecast for some of the top European destinations.
I forecast a perfect holiday in the sun.
Weather looking good then?
For sure, and no worries about our travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations forecast.
Temperatures are likely to be 5 to 10 degrees above the average for June across parts of France and Spain. Very hot conditions persisting here. A bit of a breeze, but also temperatures above average in the Canaries, getting over 30 degrees for the next few days. Highs over 32 across Italy. Plenty of hot and sunny weather here. A few showers across mainland parts of Greece, but most of the Greek islands have turned a little bit cooler with some pleasant sunshine here and plenty more sunshine to come around the Mediterranean into next week.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations forecast.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
isn't it? Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
What is the state of our economy? What is the state of our National Health Service? What is the state of our schools?
What on earth is going on?
Understanding Britain means understanding the state we're in. This is State of the Nation with me, Matt Goodwin, Wednesdays, Thursdays and Fridays from 8 p.m. on GB News.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our viewers and listeners. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/your say. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/your say, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Britain's Newsroom on GB News. Now, Glastonbury gets underway today.
It gets away.
Gets underway today with a diverse, quote-unquote, set of headline acts from Olivia Rodrigo to the 1975, love them, and even Neil Young.
Oh, the 1975.
You like them?
Awful.
No, I like them.
Joining us now, showbiz reporter Stephanie Tecci. So, Stephanie, she's actually there in Glastonbury. How's it going?
Yeah.
What's it like?
It's going marvellous. The sun's out today. This is actually my 6th time at Glastonbury. So it's always a joy to come to Worthy Farm. I think this year feels much more special because every 4 years Glastonbury takes a year, takes a year off. So there won't be Glastonbury next year. So it definitely feels a much more reason to come down here this year.
Is that your leopard print tent behind us, or is that somebody else?
Of course it is. Of course it is. It has become like an icon here at Glastonbury. People are taking selfies with everything. That's when you know I've arrived.
Oh, I love that. Although, to be fair, I'd be in a Winnebago if I was going there. So what acts are there? Who's everyone waiting for?
Well, today's going to be quite a good mix. We've got a 90s throwback with Alanis Morissette. We've got In Vogue's going to be performing, obviously 1975's going to be headlining. And then over the weekend, we've got Sir Rod Stewart who'll be performing. Also, we've got Lewis Capaldi, who suffers from Tourette's syndrome. And over the last time he was here in 2023, he had to pull out because he couldn't perform. So I think today he will be the surprise act that will be coming on today. But Glastonbury's not just about music, it's also about the talks. So there will be quite a lot of politically heavy stuff here as well.
Steph, what's this Neil Young situation about? He's told the BBC that they're not allowed to broadcast his set. I mean, does he even have that right?
Well, he does, because he's Neil Young. There was a bit of a touch-and-go controversy with him and the BBC. He eventually, with his performance, he was actually going to pull out. Because he doesn't really, he's not in agreement with the BBC, but he said that his performance tomorrow will not be live streamed.
All right, Steph, we're just fast running out of time as per, but we'll catch up in the next hour or so. You can tell us a bit more about Neil Young. Have fun at Glasgow.
But coming up, lots of people considering how they're going to tackle the small boat crisis. Do you think that we can solve it? This is Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
Even though we'll see a cloudy start, it'll be a bright outlook for the rest of the day. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Welcome along to your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. You may have heard the heat is returning, but only for some, particularly across southern areas through this weekend. Should be a fair bit of sunshine around, but it will stay on the cool side across parts of Scotland and Northern Ireland. Quite a wet day in parts of Scotland and Northern Ireland today because of these weather fronts. Quite a few isobars on the chart. It's quite breezy, but fine and sunny for much of the Midlands, eastern and southern England. Staying wet, though, over Cumbria, western Scotland, parts of Northern Ireland seeing rain on and off through the day. And as I mentioned, it is quite breezy. Quite warm, though, this afternoon over the Midlands and eastern England, 25, 26, maybe 27 Celsius. It is a little cooler further north and obviously not feeling very pleasant with the wind and the rain, which will persist over western Scotland, particularly the Highlands and the Western Isles through much of the night. It's not much of that rain getting to Aberdeenshire and parts of the Northern Isles, just turning a little showery here later on. The west of Northern Ireland seeing some outbreaks of rain, but further east turning a little drier this evening. Rain on and off across Cumbria and the hills and mountains of Wales too, but at low levels many places won't see much rain at all, but it will always stay cloudiest in the west. A fine summer's evening across much of the east although it will be quite breezy. Now, as we go through the night, we won't see a great deal of change. Rain and drizzle over western hills and coasts. Many other areas staying dry. It will be a warm night, though. Temperatures holding up in the mid to high teens in most towns and cities, and that is going to lead into a pretty humid feeling weekend. A cloudy start, murky start, but it should get brighter. Certainly a brighter day to come tomorrow across much of northern Scotland. Northern Ireland cheering up along with central Scotland. Staying fairly cloudy over the far north of England. Rain and drizzle on and off across Cumbria and northwest Wales. But further south, as the sun pops out, the temperature's really jumping up over 30 degrees Celsius and getting hotter for Sunday. Bye for now.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
We're kick-starting summer with your chance to win our biggest cash prize to date, as there's an incredible £54,321 in tax-free cash to be won. What would you spend it on? A brand new car, the holiday of a lifetime, or just sit back, relax and remove some of those day-to-day financial stresses? For another chance to win, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB14 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
Because
the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK, we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News, the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our viewers and listeners. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/your say. There, you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/your say, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. That's State of the Nation every Monday and Tuesday at 8 o'clock. Only on GB News, the People's Channel.
To all of you who voted for GB News to win at the Trick Awards for the 3rd year in a row.
So thank you so much for voting for us.
First, and hopefully there'll be a few more to come down the line.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
It's because of you that we're proud to be the People's Channel. It's because of you that we are Britain's news channel.
Very good morning to you. It's 11 o'clock on Friday, June the 27th, live across the UK, Britain's Newsroom with Ben Leo and Queer.
Yes, good morning to you. Welfare reform rebels win. The Prime Minister's left red-faced as he agrees existing disability claimants can keep their benefit. U-turn number 3.
We know where the music's playing.
That was the voice of Neil Young there, of course, who has snubbed the BBC and will not allow the broadcaster to live stream his headline Glastonbury set this weekend.
Migrant swap deal with France. You put your asylum seeker in, channel migrant out, in, out, messing everyone about. I like that.
Well done, 10 out of 10. Damage as much as possible. The soon-to-be terrorist Palestine Action is encouraging its members to continue spreading their messages, this time in prison.
And bent it like Beckham, Victoria shares a hospital picture of Sir David with his arm in a sling after surgery on a broken wrist.
Oh, bad news for you, Nana. Booze prices soar. A net zero glass tax will hike the cost of bottled beer and wine all across the UK. Are you happy to pay more for environmentally friendly packaging?
Yeah, I mean, look, I don't really drink, to be honest with you.
I just said,
a little bit.
I said, do you want to talk about the drink, Nana? And you said, well, you don't really drink. And I was like,
Not very much,
rendered
no.
me redundant. Yeah, I don't really drink either.
I just can't see the point anymore.
I had a glass of wine or two at the Trick Awards on Wednesday, whenever it was. But that was about the first in a while.
I had maybe a tiny bit of a glass of wine, like 2 sips. And I just drank water all night.
And did you celebrate our breakfast win?
I did. I went on stage, although you wouldn't think so in that promo. It doesn't look like I'm even there.
Oh, were you not on there?
You were.
No. Oh.
You could see the tiny side of my purple dress.
Oh. Well, we had fun. It was great. Great success for GB News at the Trick Awards. Thank you for your support. And one thing I love about the Trick Awards, Nana, is that it's voted for by the public, unlike the others. So you don't have the sort of gatekeepers, mainstream media protecting their little niche club. It's you, the viewers, who allowed Breakfast and Charlie Peters to win. So thank you so much.
You've been great. Thank you so much. And the funny thing is, the very first Trick Awards that we went to, which was 4 years ago, was it 3 years ago? But the very first one we went to, we were booed. Paul Sinnell came on and said some stuff that was quite insulting, and everybody hated us. But I've noticed the boos and hisses have died down now.
Yeah, the tide is changing, and it's all down to you, loyal viewers. Right, one more big hour coming up. First, let's get your news headlines with Sophia Hill.
Ben, thank you. Very good morning. It's just gone 11 o'clock. Now we start with some breaking news this morning that Habibur Massoum has been found guilty of murdering his wife by stabbing her to death as she pushed their baby in a pram. Convicted this morning at Bradford Crown Court, the 26-year-old was described as a violent, jealous and controlling husband who murdered his wife after tracking her to a woman's refuge and has now been found guilty of that murder. Massoum launched the ferocious knife attack in broad daylight before leaving her to bleed to death and calmly walk away from her, leaving their 7-month son behind. Now, the Prime Minister has bowed to pressure from Labour rebels with major concessions announced on welfare reform. Current recipients of PIP and universal credit with health conditions will now keep their payments in a move described by Dame Meg Hillier as a win for Labour values.
The government's been really listening to Labour MPs and is going to protect people who are currently in receipt of personal independence payments so that it won't decrease. And also people who receive the health element of universal credit, that will also be protected. So, you know, in line with Labour values, it's about protecting the most vulnerable. But I would say all of us want to see people in work who can be in work and want to work. And we're very committed to this bill, which promotes movement into work. But these changes are really critical to protecting the most vulnerable.
Work and Pensions Secretary Liz Kendall confirmed the changes in a letter to MPs following days of crisis talks. A crunch vote on the bill takes place on Tuesday, with the change costing the Treasury £1.5 billion a year until the end of the decade and placing further pressure on the Chancellor ahead of the autumn budget. In a major shift, France has agreed to take back some Channel migrants under a new one-in, one-out pilot scheme with the UK. Under the plan, for every illegal migrant arriving in Britain, one will be returned to France within weeks. It's the first deal of its kind aimed at stopping repeat crossings and hitting people smuggling gangs. The Home Secretary is expected to unveil the policy next week ahead of President Macron's state visit to London. GB News spoke to Shadow Paymaster General Richard Holden earlier to hear his doubts.
It's going to actually increase the number of people crossing the Channel, and it's going to be sort of weird merry-go-round in the middle of the English Channel as we have people coming on one side and then shifting them back just for others to come on the reverse again. It's completely ridiculous. What we should have is a proper deterrent, like we had with the Rwanda scheme, which said if you come here illegally, you do not get to stay in the UK.
And a major search is underway for a missing 13-year-old boy feared to have vanished near the River Tees. Milo Capilla was last seen at around 9 p.m. on Thursday night in an area known locally as the Muddies in Ingleby Barwick. Emergency services, including police, fire crews and mountain rescue teams, have been scouring the riverside through the night, with the police helicopter still circling overhead. Officers are urging the public not to enter the water and to speak to the police on the ground if they want to help. No time for fear. That's how Inspector Malloy Campbell described the moment he ran towards a sword-wielding attacker in a desperate bid to save lives. Marcus Monzo will be sentenced later on today for the murder of 14-year-old Daniel Andrewen during a horrific 20-minute rampage in Hainault, East London. The dual Spanish-Brazilian national has also been convicted of attempted murder, GBH, aggravated burglary and carrying an offensive weapon. Inspector Campbell praised the reaction time of the police.
And so, yeah, it was just a case of doing what I thought needed to be done. It was a decision. Do we contain the defendant or do we confront? And that was a decision that needed to be made quickly. And obviously the decision was to confront, because I felt that had we done anything else, then more members of the public and potentially police officers would have been seriously injured or worse.
A British man has been charged in the US for leading a worldwide hacking operation that caused more than £18 million in damages. 25-year-old Kai West was arrested in France earlier this year and now faces extradition. He's accused of stealing and selling sensitive data under the online name Intel Broker. If found guilty, West could face up to 20 years in prison, as the FBI says this was a years-long scheme that targeted over 40 victims and generated millions in illicit funds. And the iconic Glastonbury Festival is back with a star-studded lineup this year. Rod Stewart takes the Legends slot, while the 1975 Neil Young and the Chrome Hearts and Olivia Rodrigo headline on the Pyramid stage. Meanwhile, the BBC has confirmed that it will not show Neil Young's headline set at the artist's requests. But festival goers will need to keep their wits about them, as a second amber heat health alert has been issued for southern and eastern England. Temperatures are expected to pass 30 degrees from Friday through until Tuesday, with health officials urging caution as the heatwave continues. Those are the latest GB News headlines for now. More from me in just under half an hour, but first, let's quickly check in with the markets.
My Claim Group sponsors the GB News Finance Report.
And here's how the markets are looking this morning. The pound will buy you $1.374 and €1.173. The price of gold is £2,392.72 per ounce, and the FTSE 100's at 8,778 points.
My Claim Group sponsors the GB News Finance Report.
So breaking news for you now. We've had U-turns from Sir Keir Starmer on the rate gang inquiry, on the winter fuel payment for pensioners, on the benefit cap. Here's a fourth for you. Sir Keir Starmer has told the Observer newspaper he, quote, deeply regrets his Island of Strangers migration speech and insisted he didn't even know it echoed the words of Enoch Powell, and nor did his speechwriters either. He said, I wouldn't have used those words, Island of Strangers, if I'd known that they were used by Enoch Powell, or if it would be known that it would be interpreted as an echo of Powell. I had no idea, my speechwriters didn't know either, but that particular phrase, no, it wasn't right. I'll give you the honest truth. I deeply regret using it.
And, of course, he delivered that speech just over 6 weeks ago. This is the one where he should not be U-turning on. I mean, look, he made a decent point, even if some people want to interpret or he used similar wording that he wasn't aware of or he was aware of it. It doesn't really matter. You know, the point he was making, I think, was a salient point. And what he's just done there is diminished that speech and his intentions. And now it becomes a matter of whether he actually means anything that he's saying.
Man, it just proves again how weak he is, because he's obviously been getting it in the neck from people in the Labour Party, in the government, ministers, even backbenchers, and he's now been forced to come out and say he regrets it. It was probably the only thing I've heard that was slightly authentic from him over the past couple of months. Anyway, just as a reminder, Sir Keir Starmer has told the Observer newspaper he deeply regrets his Island of Strangers speech. Said his speechwriters didn't know that it would echo Enoch Powell, or indeed he didn't know that. He said, I deeply regret using it. Yeah, there we go.
Well, there you go. Let us know what you think. gbnews.com/your say. Lots of you have been in touch as well with your thoughts on some of the things that we have been talking about. We talked about the one-in, one-out scheme, which we'll be talking about in just a moment. Adrian said migrants, it should be none coming in via that route. He's absolutely right. We need to leave the ECHR. Dennis says, what does Dennis say? Bobby says, I hope they manage their wedding. This is about the Jeff Bezos wedding. I hope they manage to enjoy their wedding. Sadly, it'll be full of stress with all the spite towards them. What a pity they didn't just go incognito to some quiet tropical paradise. I bet it's this big bash in his wife's... This big bash is his wife's idea.
Well, he's not wrong. They are quite stressful weddings, aren't they?
Exactly.
I mean, they're not really... I mean, they are enjoyable in one sense, but it's more of a relief when it's over, that all that planning and expenditure is over.
No, but I just think they'll have other people planning it anyway, so it'll be fine. They'll be having a great time. Sue says all this talking about what to do to stop migrants, and yet nothing happens month on month. While politicians chat, they still arrive. Stop giving them a reason to come. There's a starting point.
And somebody said, Janet, good morning, Janet, you said, oh, for goodness sake, the best thing Starmer has ever said. He should have come out and say he deeply regrets his shower or in government. Brian, you've said Starmer's U-turns are like London buses. You wait for ages for one, then 4 turn up together.
Yeah.
Or 5, you've put.
Yeah, well, there'll be another one soon. All right, well, listen, stay with us on that subject as well, because Sir Keir Starmer is in talks with France to return channel migrants in a one-in and one-out system.
Yeah, the scheme, Britain would send migrants back to France within weeks of their arrival and return, and the UK would take asylum seekers from France instead.
Oh, I don't know why they just don't turn the boat back and then we can do it from there. But joining us now, human rights lawyer David Hay. David, this sounds like a reasonable proposition, although I would have the return done sooner. So instead of them getting on an RNLI boat that takes them to the UK, I would just take them to France and then we could do the swap that way. But talk to me about the idea and whether it's against someone's human rights or not.
Hi, good morning to you both. At the outset, I think it's absurd and unworkable. I mean, we can't even deal with the migrants coming one way in a cost-efficient and time-efficient manner. So what they're now suggesting is that if we go through the process and a potential asylum seeker gets on a boat in France, comes across the channel, isn't stopped by the French authorities, which, of course, we're potentially paying them to do, still comes into the UK, somehow, miraculously, we're then going to process them in 4 weeks and send them to France, at which point France will send one of their genuine asylum claimants, they say, to us, which we will then carry on the application with. I mean, or like I said, we can't even manage one way, let alone here, back and back again. And I just don't think it's workable. And I think, the only people that will be happy this morning are the people smugglers that will be laughing at us.
Well, what about, instead of them actually arriving in UK shores, just to send them back to France and then do it that way? So they get on boats anyway, they quite safely get on boats, and then the RNLI or whoever it is pick them up, and then they take them, the RNLI then turn their boat back and bring them to the UK. Why can't they just... If we are going to go along with this, which I actually think is ludicrous, why can't they just carry on and put them on the boat and then carry on and send them back to France and do the exchange that way? Why do we have to process them?
Well, I think the reason for that will be the current legal and human rights laws that we have. So that will be the things preventing that happening. Now,
but why can't they just be turned back and they'd be processed in France? Why do we have to process them here? Why do they have to get here? Why can't we
I think what they're trying to avoid a shenanigans effectively in the middle of the channel. And I think that, like I said, it's just an absurd scheme. I think, now, I heard Mark White earlier, and if all of the people that come across the channel are sent back, which of course France would never agree to, but if that was the case, then you could potentially work. I think it's very difficult if you're trying to process people in the middle of a channel on a boat. I don't think that will. It simply won't pass current.
No, I don't mean processing them on a boat. I'm saying that when the boat gets there, you then send them back to France, where they'll be processed, and in the meantime, we take the same number that got on the boat. I mean, I don't want that, but if we're going to do it, if you did that, you would literally stop the smugglers' model immediately. It would be over.
Yeah, I mean, as long as there was some form of processing of their whatever claim it may be under this new law, once they come to the shores, there's no reason for that to take years or even 4 weeks. It can be done very quickly, and then they could be sent back essentially from the port once that paperwork is done. That could take a day, few days if we get our act together. So that's possible, and that's possible under existing human rights laws. The thing that stops it effectively is the fact that we don't have the administration capabilities. We've shown you have asylum cases in this year that are still 10 years on and not resolved. That's absurd as well.
OK, David Haig, thank you very much. Appreciate your company. Human rights lawyer. We'll catch up very soon.
Now, President Donald Trump has rejected an invitation to Amazon founder Jeff Bezos' Venetian wedding.
I think I would as well. We're joined now by senior global reporter for The Man Online, Nick Pisa. Nick, hello, my old friend. Hope you're doing well. Why would Donald Trump reject this invitation to Bezos' wedding? What's the relationship like between those two?
I thought they'd have gone on pretty well, to be honest with you, Ben. I know that, obviously, Donald Trump has a few things on his mind. I know he was at the NATO summit in the Netherlands, but he is being represented in a certain degree, if you like, because his daughter, Ivanka, is staying here. You can probably see the Gritty Palace Hotel behind me. She's not actually there. She's at the St. Regis. Excuse me. But other VIP guests are staying there, Orlando Bloom, the Kardashians. And as you can see, it's quite busy in the canal behind me here. Lots of sightseers and holidaymakers as well. A lot of people hoping to get a glimpse of some of the celebrities who are attending this wedding, which is due to take place later on this afternoon. I say wedding, Ben, because I don't know if you're aware, but there is no actual civil ceremony taking place at all. Jeff Bezos and Lauren Sanchez have already tied the knot a few weeks ago in the United States. So this is just an excuse for a 3-day mega party, if you like.
Oh, there's nothing wrong with that. The people of Venice, some people are complaining, though, aren't they? Is it getting a lot of backlash, or in comparison, is it actually quite small?
No, there is a fair amount of backlash, to be honest with you. If you walk through the streets and by the canal sides, you can see posters advertising a demonstration that is planned for tomorrow at the station, the Central Santa Lucia station, which is going to be ending up in St. Mark's Square. Originally, the plan was for demonstrators to wear snorkels, masks, slippers, and throw inflatable crocodiles and other inflatable toys into the canal to impede the water taxis from leaving. So that's why the venue has actually changed from the Scuola della Misericordia, which is a venue here in Venice, to the Arsenale, which is a complex of shipping warehouses, old shipyards, and it's a very trendy warehouse complex. And the final party will be there. I gather it's a Venetian masked ball theme. Yesterday, there was also a laser projected onto St. Mark's Bell Tower with an offensive slogan against oligarchs. And I say there are other protests planned along the way. This is from a campaign group called No Space for Jeff Bezos. We should also say that conversely, there is a campaign group called Yes, Venice Can, who are very much in favour of this wedding. And we know that obviously hoteliers, local shops, restaurants are doing a grand roaring trade.
OK, Nick, before I let you go, have you spotted any Labour ministers or even the PM there shirking away?
No, I've not seen any political glitterati from the UK at all. Let's say Ivanka Trump, Orlando Bloom, Oprah Winfrey, Leonardo DiCaprio, but no one else of any significance from the UK.
Nick Pisa, global reporter at The Man Online. Enjoy yourself. We'll catch up later on in the day, I suspect. Thanks, Nick.
Right, well, some breaking news now. Counter-terrorism policing South East have said that 1 woman and 2 men have been arrested on suspicion of a terror offence at the RAF Rise Norton after the 2 Voyager aircrafts were damaged in an action claimed by Palestine Action.
There we go, 2 arrests. Interesting. Right, up next, the Work and Pension Secretary has just been speaking to reporters about the welfare reform bill, that big U-turn that Sir Keir Starmer is going to be making.
And the Prime Minister says that he regrets his Island of Strangers comment. Is there anything he does stand by? You're with Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Camilla Tominey. This is GB News, Britain's election channel.
Good afternoon, Britain. Weekdays from midday.
And Tom, look what I received this morning.
This is so sweet. Oh!
Isn't that cute? From one of our viewers and listeners. A little, I think it's homemade.
Shall I hold it up?
Yeah, you hold it up. And a little tiny matching hat as well, which is very cute. Goes up here. So there you go, a little matching hat.
And
also a lovely little blanket as well. Wow. This is from Judith from Leeds, who wrote me a lovely little letter, and to Patrick as well, wishing us well, saying that she loves watching our shows, and I hope we enjoy this little outfit. So there you go.
It's like your little baby is with us already.
So yes, Judith, I hope you're watching, because thank you very much indeed. It's really sweet of you to send that to me. It took a little while to get to us, but we've got it this morning, so that's so cute.
It's incredible craftsmanship, actually.
I'll make sure to take a little picture when the baby arrives.
Are you sure your baby isn't going to be French?
There's something French about it. It's a good thing I like France, so there you go.
Oui, oui.
That's very cute indeed. I just thought I'd say thank you, because it was a really nice surprise this morning.
Yeah, no, it is actually really, really lovely. It does, I mean...
To bring a tear to your eye, Tom.
Well, we haven't really...
Feeling very emotional.
I was going to say... We haven't really mentioned, your pregnancy in a little while. And
yeah, after the big reveal. After the big reveal.
You're still with us for a few months more before your due date.
I have to depart, yes.
Yeah.
Don't worry, you've got me for a little longer. We'll see how it goes.
Marvellous.
See how it goes. It'll be rolling me in. Before I leave this desk.
It'll be a GB baby.
GB News baby. GB baby.
GB News, the People's Channel.
At GB News, we are proud to stand for you, for the Britain you love, for the communities you live in. That's what makes us the fearless champions of Britain, its voices and its values. Because we, at GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Friday at 11:22. This is Britain's Newsroom with Ben Leo and me, Nana Aquia. Joining us in the studio, Dr. Rennie Honderkamp and James Schneider. But we'll go to Liz Kendall now. She's the Work and Pensions Secretary. She is currently speaking.
I hope these changes will mean we get support for our bill, a bill that wants to ensure fairness in the welfare system for people who really need support and fairness for the taxpayer too. It's really important that we make changes in future so the welfare state is there for people who really, really need it. We support those who can't work and we make sure those who can work get the help they need.
Can you guarantee it's going to pass now?
I really believe these are positive changes. We've worked hard to get agreement on this. There's really, really strong commitment to the principles of reforming our welfare state. Those who can work should get help, and we have the biggest ever investment into employment support for sick and disabled people, but also to protect those who can never work, make sure their incomes are protected, and make sure they're never reassessed again.
Doesn't seem to be the end of the story, though, does it? Because we're already hearing from quite a few Labour MPs who don't seem convinced by this compromise, some specifically saying that you've actually ended up creating a two-tier system as a result of these changes.
Well, the changes that we are introducing will make sure existing claimants are unaffected, but we also all agree that there do need to be changes in future to make sure that people who can work do so, we protect those who can't, but that we make the welfare state sustainable for the future. These are really, really important decisions. We have listened to people, we have engaged with them. I think we are in a good place now, alongside the huge investments we are putting in to create the jobs that people need in every part of the country, to get waiting lists down in the NHS, to ensure stronger rights at work, but also to make sure there's employment support for those who can work and protections for those who can't.
But you have created this disparity now between...
Who has a combined salary with her husband of about £760,000 £100,000 who lives in Notting Hill in a £3.9 million Victorian property. See, this is my problem with these people. These guys came up with this policy to get money from people who really have very little or are on benefits on PIP, which is one of the hardest benefits in terms of a disability to achieve and to obtain. And there they are looking to take money off these people. And now they're obviously had to U-turn. Dr. Renee Hundekamp and James Schneider, I'll start with you, Dr. Renee.
Oh, yeah, you're not going to like what I say. I think this is out of control. I think Labour's bill, before they've amended it, was rubbish anyway. It wasn't going to make any savings. It wasn't going to change anything. We have a system in this country where we're going to be spending more than the GDP of Slovakia, Croatia, Bahrain, Jordan by 2030 if it carries on. We've got fewer and fewer people working, and the working people have to pay for it. It's a Ponzi scheme that just can't continue. It has to change. And unfortunately, we do need to obviously accept that there are some people who can never work, and we should absolutely protect those people. Of course we should. That's a compassionate state. But most people can work. So if you're a painter and decorator but you've got bad shoulders, then change your job. If you can walk around your house and go to the shops, you can do a job on the telephone. You know, there are jobs for people to do, and that's what we should be encouraging people to do. Also, whether or not we should be giving PIP to people who have got, you know, ADHD. Why? I've got people in their 40s being diagnosed with ADHD, which then entitles them to PIP. People that have qualified as doctors. Now, what's going on? We need to have a look at the parameters. We need to change the parameters so that we truly do look after the people who absolutely need it, but we also respect the people paying for it.
Alison, I agree with you, but the problem is what they came up with didn't do those things. No. So it didn't protect those people. No. So that is the problem with it. It's not that I disagree that they need to fine-tune the system.
I'm not sure that's true, actually.
What they did, what they came out with, I don't think fine-tuned the system at all in a way that was fair.
I don't think what they did anything anyway. No. I think it was rubbish, and he shouldn't have put himself in this position to have this war in his party over it. It should have been much more far-reaching, and it should have actually completely changed who qualifies for it and why.
All right, James Schneider.
Well, it was taking money away from people that I think we all think money should go to, which is people who need help getting out of bed or washing themselves. I don't think there's anyone who would say that that's a category of people that should receive. Yes, if you need help to get out of bed, or personal independence payments has got nothing to do with whether you work or not. Yeah. It's because you have additional costs because of your disabilities make it harder for you to live. Yeah. So an additional cost is obviously if you can't get out of bed yourself or you need help to wash yourself, that's an additional cost which you and I don't bear, and so it's reasonable that those people get something. Now, if you did want to deal with the welfare bill, you wouldn't be looking at around the margins, where can we take money from people who really have it? The two biggest costs in the welfare bill are subsidising low pay and housing benefit paid to private landlords. So if you wanted to look at the two biggest things, you would look at how can we boost the pay of the lowest earners so that they don't need to be subsidised, and how can we reduce the rents of people who are in private rented accommodation so that bill is not going up 5% a year. So those would be two structural things.
I agree with you. I think the way they set this up, where they were taking the money from wasn't quite right. One bit of it I did agree with, that young people shouldn't be allowed to claim certain benefits. It was which benefit was that one?
So interestingly, in the under 35, 70% of their claims are for mental health.
Exactly.
The best thing for their mental health would be going to work.
I agreed with them on that.
But I do agree with James. I think that but our successive governments have done this. They have allowed their big business mates to rely on migration to keep wages low. We need to pay people a living wage so that they can actually
Absolutely.
James, can I ask you about... Sir Keir Starmer has told the Observer newspaper he regrets his island of strangers.
They didn't know about it, and neither did the speechwriters, apparently.
Well, the speechwriters must have known that they'd written it.
No.
But they didn't know that it was...
He said that they didn't know, and they didn't know about the collection. Those were his words, saying that they didn't realise.
Yeah, they didn't realise that it was an echo of Enoch Powell.
Well, then, in which case, if you're not if you don't realise or you haven't read it, then it's not an echo, is it?
I mean, I think the the issue, there are kind of two separate issues here. One is he said something which immediately people thought was bad, and if he thought it was bad then, he should have said something about it then.
I think most people probably agreed with him, actually. This was, for me, the first decent thing that he's actually said.
Well, you might think that. I disagree with that, but you could have said something then. Then there's a second whole thing, which is his explanation, which sounds much more plausible, which is he comes back from 3 days, he hasn't read the speech, and hasn't really... I think the quote is he hadn't held it up to the light properly.
What do you think of the comment, Island of Strangers?
I think
personally?
I think it's a complete nonsense. I think the thing that is making us an island of strangers is the... not having social clubs, not having people in trade unions, people not playing football together. The thing, it being £8 to have a pint in the pub. These are things which make people more alienated and separate from one another.
Mass migration, though, from people not assimilating, so multiculturalism?
Well, I mean, I live in a very so-called multicultural place. I don't feel like I'm a stranger there, and I'm not a stranger...
Multiculturalism is different to a multicultural place. Multiculturalism is about the silos, where people come in and literally...
Yeah, fine, but I live in Haringey, in North London, where there are people from all...
Well, isn't that the problem?
Birmingham.
Isn't that precisely the problem, James? That you, with no disrespect to you, you live where you live, you are who you are, you live the life you live, as do many other people, but you don't understand the lives of people who say that Island of Strangers speech was accurate. The people in the working class towns up and down the country, particularly in the north, who feel like their culture, their society, their communities have become a stranger to them. So you just don't get it, to be quite blunt. You don't get it. So that's why many people agreed with the Prime Minister for once on that.
Yeah, I don't think that many people did agree with him on that.
You're wrong.
No, maybe you and your mates, but I'm saying there are many communities...
I mean, look...
And the reason... Go on.
I work in Haringey, so it is a lovely part of London, it really is. But I can tell you, I trained in Whitechapel. Just go a few miles down the road to Whitechapel and you'll find a very different place to Haringey. You'll find a ghetto where the street names are not even written in English.
Whitechapel's not a ghetto.
I
was in Whitechapel yesterday. Whitechapel is not a ghetto.
What is that? All right, let's talk about Birmingham. When was the last time you went to somewhere like Birmingham?
A few months ago.
All right, so that is a place where you have cultural silos. That's multiculturalism.
What do you mean you have cultural silos? In Birmingham, there are people from all sorts... There are Jamaican people, there are Pakistani people, there are white British people, there are...
Yeah, but if you ask the people there, if you actually spent time in some of those places, you would realise that there is actually a lack of integration. So people from certain countries will stay in one silo, another in another silo, and another...
Yeah, and I agree that...
So that is multiculturalism. Where you are in Haringey is, it's very twee, and it's also, it's London, which is akin, Well,
no, but why...
OK, but I agree that there should be things that bring people together, but that is what does naturally happen in community throughout history. If you look at... Let's take the working class in this country.
OK, very briefly, 10 seconds.
The...
Carry on.
The working class in the country has always been people who've been brought from all different parts of the country and also from other countries who live together. That's what happens. That's the process of the development.
Well, maybe where you are.
With values founded on Christianity.
All right, listen, Dr. Rennie Honekamp and James Schneider, thank you very much. Right, let's get your latest news headlines.
Very good morning. The headlines just after 11:30. A 29-year-old woman and two men aged 36 and 24 have been arrested on suspicion of a terror offence after two aircraft were damaged at RAF Brize Norton in a campaign in action claimed by campaign group Palestine Action. The Prime Minister has made major welfare concessions, allowing current PIP and universal credit claimants with health conditions to keep their payments, in a move praised by Dame Meg Hillier as a win for Labour values. A major search is underway for missing 13-year-old Milo Capilla after he's feared to have vanished near the River Tees in Ingleby, Barwick. And mental health support is going digital, as patients in England will soon be able to self-refer for talking therapies through the NHS app under Wes Streeting's new plans. And British-born fashion mogul Anna Wintour is stepping down as editor at Vogue after 37 years, the longest run of any other editor. Those are the headlines for now. More news at the top of the hour.
with it.
Up at noon, good afternoon, Britain, with Tom and Emily. Good morning to you two. What's on the show?
Isn't it extraordinary that the Prime Minister has walked back from...
Sorry, you crack me up, Tom. Go on.
It is extraordinary. It is extraordinary.
Astonishing, I heard.
I think it is absolutely gobsmacking, mind-boggling. I'm stupefied, quite frankly, that a Prime Minister who said such an ordinary series of words, that we don't want this country to become an island of strangers where people live parallel lives. And now, because Enoch Powell once used the word strangers, let's not forget, he didn't use the word island of strangers. The word strangers appeared in a speech made by Enoch Powell. And now everyone has suddenly decided that no politician can say the word strangers without being Powellian.
Well, it wasn't really everyone else. It was just the left wing who heard this and said, it was like, Enoch Powell.
Think about it.
And he's right. Someone was right anyway.
Throwing his own MPs onto the bus again. Ministers had to come out on the media and defend his comments and say this, that and the other. And then Keir Starmer speaking to The Observer, he just said, oh, yeah, I regret that, actually. Didn't know it sounded like Enoch Powell. Speechwriter didn't know either. We're all useless, sorry.
Maybe you guys can analyse it later, but I want to know why he's come out now and said it. Is it pressure from MPs? Have they done some polling where he thinks he's been affected by it?
This is a man who has been
doing.
struggling between his own mind and his advisors. Clearly, this speech was written either by or in the line of Morgan McSweeney, his chief of staff. Now, this was a personal interview with Tom McTague, someone he's known for a long time, where he says his true feelings. This is the absolute tension at the core of the Prime Minister right now. He's got advisors saying what the country thinks, but he believes something else.
I suspect that he was scared of reform, and then he tried to say something that maybe they might say. And then he's realised...
He tried to be a bit right-wing and it didn't work for him, did it?
Right-wing and it didn't. You're right.
His heart wasn't in it.
They'll be back at midday. Tom and Emily will be joining you. But we have a fantastic interview with SAS veteran of 20 years, Des Powell. He's an inspirational man. You cannot miss this. This is Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
Welcome along to your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. You may have heard the heat is returning, but only for some, particularly across southern areas through this weekend. Should be a fair bit of sunshine around, but it will stay on the cool side across parts of Scotland and Northern Ireland. Quite a wet day in parts of Scotland and Northern Ireland today because of these weather fronts. Quite a few isobars on the chart. It's quite breezy, but fine and sunny for much of the Midlands, eastern and southern England. Staying wet, though, over Cumbria, western Scotland, parts of Northern Ireland seeing rain on and off through the day. And as I mentioned, it is quite breezy. Quite warm, though, this afternoon over the Midlands and eastern England, 25, 26, maybe 27 Celsius. It is a little cooler further north and obviously not feeling very pleasant with the wind and the rain, which will persist over western Scotland, particularly the Highlands and the Western Isles through much of the night. It's not much of that rain getting to Aberdeenshire and parts of the Northern Isles, just turning a little showery here later on. The west of Northern Ireland seeing some outbreaks of rain, but further east turning a little drier this evening. Rain on and off across Cumbria and the hills and mountains of Wales too, but at low levels many places won't see much rain at all, but it will always stay cloudiest in the west. A fine summer's evening across much of the east, although it will be quite breezy. Now, as we go through the night, we won't see a great deal of change. Rain and drizzle over western hills and coasts, many other areas staying dry. It will be a warm night, though. Temperatures holding up in the mid to high teens in most towns and cities, and that is going to lead into a pretty humid feeling weekend. A cloudy start, murky start, but it should get brighter. Certainly a brighter day to come tomorrow across much of northern Scotland. Northern Ireland cheering up along with central Scotland. Staying fairly cloudy over the far north of England. Rain and drizzle on and off across Cumbria and northwest Wales. But further south, as the sun pops out, the temperature's really jumping up over 30 degrees Celsius and getting hotter for Sunday. Bye for now.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world. Am I allowed to talk now? No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Welcome back. Now, from the Paras to the SAS, Des Powell spent over 20 years on the front line of British Special Forces operations.
Now he's lifting the lid on what it takes to make it through selection in his new book, SAS, The Trial. Our award-winning national reporter, Charlie Peters, spoke to him about it.
Des Powell, former Sergeant Major of 22 SAS Regiment. Thank you very much for joining us this afternoon. So tell me about this new book you've got out.
Well, I was approached about doing a personal development book. And I said, if I do, I want to have a slightly different bent on it. In the regiment, whenever we go on operations, we come back and we've done a task, we always tend to do a debrief. And on that debrief, we all get together and it's a lessons learned. So what we say is, what did we learn from that operation? And what went right, but more importantly, what went wrong? So what I've done in this book is that the central theme, okay, is about my 8 years in Parachute Regiment and then 20 years within the SAS. And then what I've done in each chapter, I've given a story, a difficult story, and I've done a thing called lessons learned. What did I learn from that particular difficult period in my life? And then people can then take from that book as they want, and they can scale it to what's happening in their lives. So you can read it just as a normal book and still enjoy the stories, or you can have it as a lessons learned. What did I learn? Because today people are going through some difficult times. I think people will look at me and they'll cry. He's speaking from experience. If he's been in the Parachute Regiment and he's been in the SAS, well then he's done a bit, seen a bit, and he knows a bit. So therefore, if I come from a standpoint of experience, people will have confidence in it. And I think it's be an enjoyable book anyhow.
And Des, you spoke about those 8 years in the Paras and then over 2 decades in 22 SAS. Highlights of your career, surely the first Gulf War as part of that Bravo 30 patrol.
People are always asking me, they're always saying, how difficult is it to get in the SAS? How hard is the lifestyle within the SAS? So what I did, I wanted to emphasize this in the book, but still have that format, if you like, of lessons learnt, because I think that's a success format. That's a success format that is from the SAS. And I think if people look at us, the Special Forces element is that if we have this success mindset, well, then people can scale it to Civvy Street, so to speak.
Now, obviously, the UK Special Forces are famed the world over for their physical and moral courage and their strength and fortitude. But actually, I think what you and lots of other veterans of the SAS will say is that actually it's the mental strength. That's the key difference. Passing selection, as it is to get into the SAS, lots of very fit blokes don't make it over the line because they don't necessarily have the mental powers required to get there. Is that what you think as well?
Yes, it is. I think, you know, people always look at the SAS and expect a 6'5" guy, 25 minutes across the chest, a tin of Ratchet grease in one and a black whip in the other, when actual fight, he's just a normal guy like anyone else. And I think the mental side, as you pointed out, is very, very important, is that you can get the body as fit as you can, but these times, especially within the Special Forces world, is that the mind takes over, and it's the mind element, that strength element, that takes over the physical itself.
And it's that saying, isn't it, that's famous in the regiment, always a little further, about going beyond, pushing your limits. That's the mark of what is required to be in UK Special Forces and serve with those troops. Are you trying to bring that mindset, always a little further, as lessons for civilians to apply to their own lifestyles?
Yes, I think so. As I said, I'm always being asked, you know, the difficulties, you know, how hard is it to get in? What is the lifestyle? How difficult is that? As you can appreciate in the SAS, it's stamped on the side of the can. It's going to be a stressful job. We're going to be put in stressful situations. It's going to be difficult all the time. And you're going to need a certain type of individual to do that. That's why the selection process comes about. The selection process selects that individual for the SAS. And from my book, then, if people, the reader, can take and learn certain things, and as you pointed out, especially this mind strength element, well, then it's got to be a success format. As you can appreciate, the SAS have been successful since the Second World War, and they are still carrying on being successful. So I think that success format is very important, and I tend to have stamped it on this book.
Yeah. I'm sure there'll be plenty of people watching and listening to this and thinking, OK, I want a bit of that mindset for my own life. But when I think of sort of the military order of priorities, my mission, my kit, and then me, it might sound a little bit extreme, say, if you're a management consultant working in the city. But, you know, you're not asking people to do a high altitude, low opening jump. You're not asking them to do jungle training. You're asking them to think differently, right?
Yes, it is. I mean, no, you don't have to join the military, and certainly you don't have to join the SAS. I think people can learn from the SF community, if you like, and I think it's all around this lessons learnt, is that we're exposed to certain situations that the average civilian is not. And if I can place an element of this into my book and people, the reader, can take something from it, well, then it's got to help. No, I'm not saying that they've got to do anything which is really hard as such physically, but I think the mental element is very important. And I think that from this book, I think people will pick up. As I said, the average civilian that reads this book, I'm sure they will take something away from it.
What was the biggest lesson you learnt from any of those operations or exercises or experiences in the SAS? What was the hardest lesson to learn and the debriefing experience you had?
Well, it's a good question. And I suppose is that you've got to have drive in everything you do. And it can come in other terms of passion. OK, if you've got drive and passion and you really like what you do and you really want to do what you do, for example, with me, when I can think back in Parachute Regiment, I wanted to go to the SAS. I had this desire. I really wanted to do it. And people always ask me, they go, what is it that you have? And I say, if you really want to do something, I'm on about really want to do something, OK, you can do it. All you've got to do, it comes back to that, put your mind to it, and you will be successful.
Des Powell, it's been a pleasure. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Pleasure. Cheers, mate.
That was lovely, wasn't it? Our award-winning national reporter, Charlie Peters.
Greatest special forces in the world, the SAS. Shame the establishment is going after them and not thanking them.
Right, well, if you're in search of some holiday sun, here is the forecast of some of the top European destinations. You're with Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
You're looking happy.
Well, the forecast looks good.
So you've sorted the travel insurance then?
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations forecast.
Temperatures are likely to be 5 to 10 degrees above the average for June across parts of France and Spain. Very hot conditions persisting here. A bit of a breeze, but also temperatures above average in the Canaries, getting over 30 degrees for the next few days. Highs over 32 across Italy. Plenty of hot and sunny weather here. A few showers across mainland parts of Greece, but most of the Greek islands have turned a little bit cooler with some pleasant sunshine here and plenty more sunshine to come around the Mediterranean into next week.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations forecast.
Welcome back to Britain's Newsroom with Andrew and Beth.
Hello everyone, Patrick Christie's here.
I'm Michelle Chu, Britain's News Channel.
Access the stories that matter to you. Take the GB News family with you on any device. And as long as you have an internet connection, tune in to GB News anywhere on the planet or beyond. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our viewers and listeners. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, because the failure is
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. That's State of the Nation every Monday and Tuesday at 8 o'clock, only on GB News, the People's Channel.
Good morning. Right, let's go straight to Glastonbury and speak to showbiz reporter Stephanie Tecci. Stephanie, what's happening there?
Well, we've got a lot of sun today, which is nice because I think it's nothing worse than being in Glastonbury when it's rainy. But at the moment, this weekend's going to see about 200,000 people come to Werby Farm for this weekend Glastonbury Festival.
Steph, tell us about this Neil Young situation. He's banned the BBC from broadcasting his headline set on Sunday. I mean, does he even have the power to do that?
Yes, he has, because he's Neil Young. He almost didn't perform at Glastonbury when the lineup was announced back in March, because he said that the festival had sold out to the BBC and was under corporate control. But he backtracked on that, said that he will perform at Glastonbury. He's always wanted to perform at this event. But it seems like he still has a bee in his bonnet about the BBC, and he says that this performance, which will be happening tomorrow night, will not be live streamed on any of the BBC's outlets. So, you know, he is going to be at Glastonbury. So it's going to be something special for people who are here in Somerset to watch him perform. But unfortunately, it will not be shared online.
So, but it will be on TV, though?
No, it won't be on TV either.
Not even on TV. Good for him. I like that. That might be the shape of things to come. There might be others doing exactly the same to the BBC in the end. Stephanie Tecci, thank you very much. Lovely to see you. Enjoy Glastonbury. I'm sure she'll be in touch with us throughout the weekend. That is it from here in Britain's Newsroom.
Yes, I'm back tomorrow from 9. You're back tomorrow from...
From 3 o'clock.
Now is Good Afternoon Britain with Tom and Emily. See you soon.
£3 billion. That's what the Institute for Fiscal Studies says will cost the taxpayer thanks to the Prime Minister's benefits U-turn today. Is Britain ungovernable?
It's not the only U-turn today, is it? Keir Starmer has totally backtracked on that Island of Strangers comment during a speech on immigration. It's taken him a while to backtrack, but does it have echoes of Enoch Powell? And is he right to denounce his own words? That's next. Stick with us.
Heavy showers first thing will be followed by a warm, cosy day. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Welcome along to your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. You may have heard the heat is returning, but only for some, particularly across southern areas through this weekend. Should be a fair bit of sunshine around, but it will stay on the cool side across parts of Scotland and Northern Ireland. Quite a wet day in parts of Scotland and Northern Ireland today because of these weather fronts. Quite a few isobars on the chart. It's quite breezy, but fine and sunny for much of the Midlands, eastern and southern England. Staying wet, though, over Cumbria, western Scotland, parts of Northern Ireland seeing rain on and off through the day. And as I mentioned, it is quite breezy. Quite warm, though, this afternoon over the Midlands and eastern England, 25, 26, maybe 27 Celsius. It is a little cooler further north and obviously not feeling very pleasant with the wind and the rain, which will persist over western Scotland, particularly the Highlands and the Western Isles through much of the night. It's not much of that rain getting to Aberdeenshire and parts of the Northern Isles, just turning a little showery here later on. The west of Northern Ireland seeing some outbreaks of rain, but further east turning a little drier this evening. Rain on and off across Cumbria and the hills and mountains of Wales too, but at low levels many places won't see much rain at all, but it will always stay cloudiest in the west. A fine summer's evening across much of the east, although it will be quite breezy. Now, as we go through the night, we won't see a great deal of change. Rain and drizzle over western hills and coasts, many other areas staying dry. It will be a warm night, though. Temperatures holding up in the mid to high teens in most towns and cities, and that is going to lead into a pretty humid feeling weekend. A cloudy start, murky start, but it should get brighter. Certainly a brighter day to come tomorrow across much of northern Scotland. Northern Ireland cheering up along with central Scotland. Staying fairly cloudy over the far north of England. Rain and drizzle on and off across Cumbria and northwest Wales. But further south, as the sun pops out, the temperature's really jumping up over 30 degrees Celsius and getting hotter for Sunday. Bye for now.
There will be a light breeze in the morning, leading to a warm front. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
£54,321 in totally tax-free cash could make your year the best yet. How would you react if you got that winning call?
Oh my God, I'm going to cry. Oh my God. Thank you.
You weren't expecting to get that call today, were you?
No, I wasn't.
For another chance to win £54,321 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB14 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk then?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers
have I got up?
About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our viewers and listeners. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/your say. There, you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/your say, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
What is the state of our economy? What is the state of our National Health Service? What is the state of our schools?
What on earth is going on?
Understanding Britain means understanding the state we are in. This is State of the Nation with me, Matt Goodwin, Wednesdays, Thursdays and Fridays from 8 p.m. on GB News.
Join me, Nana Okoye, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun. No, he didn't say that, though. I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
For GB News to win at the Trick Awards